Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is another Technical Alpha podcast, the first one of the year of our Lord 2018. We survived 2017. 2018's off to a hell of a start, let me tell you. I thought we'd have at least 3, maybe 4 weeks before everything went to hell in a handbasket. We didn't even get 3 days. We got lots to talk about today on the podcast, including the long-awaited Adam finally went to see Star Wars, so now we can talk about Star Wars segment that will come up, and I'll tell you now at the very end, so that nobody has to be like, oh God, I don't want to hear about the Octopus. At the end of the podcast, so for those of you listening in on YouTube, just be warned, don't skip around too much, because you might get fucked. Careful with that trigger finger on the YouTube search bar. Gentlemen.
Did you just assume my lord?
Yes. You have no options here. The spaghetti monster is your one and only savior.
Oh, okay, that's acceptable. I thought you were assuming some other lord.
You have no, well, Lord. What was it for the South Park episode where they were making fun of the singer? Lordy, Lord. We are back. Yes, it is 2018. We apologize for missing last week, but it was literally to bring the joke back. Jeff's muted on Discord. It's been a while. Jeff's out of the rhythm.
Oh,
there we go. There we go.
Damn.
There we go.
Stuff too randomly. But
it's all right. It's all right. It'll show up. It'll show up for those listening on iTunes.
That's right. Because I am recording.
Yes. But not YouTube. They don't.
Yeah,
they just get to see you.
Storm.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have power last Thursday.
No, you were getting in and out of power once every 5 minutes out there, and here we miraculously kept power all the way up until about midnight, 12:30. Then it died finally, and we didn't have it for about 10 or 11 hours, and then it came back. But who cares? I was asleep. So that was convenient enough as is. Although I did Coleman hit me up with that collab. Jeff, you want 5 of these. Let me tell you. These LED lanterns were amazing. We had nothing but candles in the house for when the weather gets nasty or whatever.
I got like 6 of those from my tiny ass apartment.
I went out, I bought 2 of them because this bad boy gets up to some level of light that is, you could signal or you could take down a helicopter. You point this bitch at a helicopter, the guy's gonna be like, ah! And just fucking crash over into the friggin' ocean. This shit gets bright as hell. And when you're outside and you get lost and you're in the woods and you need to signal your mom when you're out in the woods, you just set it to this. Either that or have a rave. Those are your 2 options.
Or a seizure. One of the 2.
Well, yeah, there's a couple options. But yeah, amazing.
Hey, Jeff.
Very, very highly recommended.
Why is Adam twitching in the woods right now?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Seems to be having a rave or something.
I was avoiding Star Wars.
We got these things, Caleb bought, that you plug them into the electrical socket, and it glows blue. Like, it's, like, really bright. And you can take them off, and you can walk around with them and shit. So we just use those. We got all those all around the house, so they worked well.
These are really cool because you can disengage the bottom where the batteries connect, so they don't drain the batteries, so you can keep them long term. Oh,
Ours
somebody
don't
was
have batteries,
thinking.
They just charge. They just charge when they're in the walls.
But what if they run out of charge and then you still don't have power? What then?
Yeah, but they're you leave them constantly in there, so they work as night lights. You can, as you're walking past them, they glow.
Oh no, I get you. No, I get you. I'm just saying. What if we get WAN 2.0?
Oh. Then you've got more to worry about than power.
I won't have more to worry about. I'll have my Coleman.
My dad's got the ones where you got like the things that plug in, and it's got the light at the bottom, and then you pull out like a flashlight separately from it.
Oh yeah,
and it charges and holds it.
No, it's good stuff. But anyway, yeah. So last week, crazy weather, shingles everywhere. I went over to visit mom and dad the other day, and the street looked like a war zone. Just shingles everywhere because apparently, well, I mean, all the houses are around the same age, obviously, and many of them haven't had their roof redone when they should have, and now it is a mess. Shingles all over the place. Specifically, their next door neighbor, they've got like a 4-foot segment that's just like a mohawk standing straight up right now, bare roof underneath of it. So if we get any more rain, it's gonna be bad. It's going to be real bad. We do have, as you might imagine, since we haven't had a stream in a while, we have a fair amount to talk about in some major points. Of course, coincidentally, almost none of them have anything to do with video games directly, but it's definitely something for us to talk about. So let's get
video game related.
Let's get the game stuff ish out of the way. First of all, Overwatch League officially kicked off here the other day, and apparently Twitch was like, you know what? I want to have you, and I want no one else to have you, and so I'm going to spend something like $90 million
It was 90 mil.
to exclusively stream the Overwatch League. And so they did. And I guess maybe it paid off because they almost broke Tyler One's stream record with the viewers. I think they had like almost 400,000. There was really good numbers. I think it's still going on right now, or it was earlier today anyway. And it was
they do 3 matches a day, I think, for a couple of days.
Yeah. So it looked great. The visual of it all looked great. It was definitely broadcast quality stuff. The
production quality was phenomenal.
It was
probably
great.
One of the best put together online productions I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, and then
no NASL sound guy.
Then you saw the New York Excelsior logo, and you reminded yourself that not everything was above board. That was.
Say, Excelsior's got their social media on point because Boston Uprising came out and said, "What hurts? Looking at the Excelsior logo," and then Excelsior comes back and says, "Yeah, especially after that preseason match."
Yeah. Well, you know what? I made a tweet about this earlier today, and then I said, I can't let Boston, or not Boston, I can't let Florida get away with it because Florida's logo is arguably worse than New York's. It's awfully damn close. Literally, somebody got paid to put an M, typed M on their keyboard. All right, here we go. M, and then they drew a freaking half moon to connect both sides of the M, and they were like, "Yep,
it's the bomb.
That's the logo right there, right there." And then they said, "Sure, here's $10,000." I have no idea how much he was paid, but whatever it was, I would have done it for half. So yeah, it looked really good. Everything was smooth. The commentary was great from what I watched. Everything was going really, really well. It was competitive to a degree. Some of them were a little less competitive than others. But I didn't get to watch too much of it. I know that
that'll level off over time, though.
Yeah, I know that obviously a lot of people are memeing it up about how many Koreans are existing on so many of these teams because obviously they have a surplus in Seoul.
Actually, the main reason again, obviously I live in New York. The main reason I support Boston over New York is that Boston actually has more North American talent.
Yeah.
Like, someone was arguing that, but New York is right near New Jersey and there's a huge Korean community. I'm like, yeah, but the ones on Excelsior aren't from there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch.
So, as much as I love, Excelsior's got great players, and, I don't want to diminish that. I was hoping for more, when they announced, that whole regional slant on it, that we'd get more regional players, but that hasn't quite materialized.
That wouldn't make money, Panic. You know what makes money? Winning. You know who wins? The Koreans. So those are your options.
Not discounting that.
Exactly.
I can dream.
You can dream. You can dream. I'm not going to take it away from you. I just can't promise it's actually going to turn into anything of any value. Outside of that, other lovely things happened today. Nintendo had a small direct that ended up just being a massive highlight reel for launches in 2018. One of them ended up being a bit of a double here in that Dark Souls is getting a remaster, the original one. Kind of like a not a director's cut, but I guess you'd call it a Game of the Year edition, where they're going back, they're redoing some stuff on it. The PC,
what they did with Darksiders.
Kind of, yeah. So PC, Xbox One X, and PS4 Pro all will apparently, from what I remember, will experience lovely 4K 60 on the remaster, which is pretty phenomenal. Obviously, the PC will look amazing, I'm sure. And then it's coming to the Switch. They're putting Dark Souls on the Switch, which blew my mind. I didn't see that coming whatsoever.
The original one at 720p could work.
Well, no, the original, it's going to be 1080p 30 in dock mode apparently. So I don't know what wizardry they came up with. I don't know if it's just going to be stick figures running around with like vague symbols
Maybe
of
a
weapons.
lot of culling. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's coming. Dark Souls on the Switch. Now, what that tells me is that there's a good chance if they're going to do that, that the Switch might get like more mature games. It's not going to be nothing but, you know, the usual Nintendo fare, which is kind of happened on the Wii U. Like there wasn't really a lot of particularly.
Nintendo looked at their sales of accessories and they're like, we need a game that will let us sell more Joy-Cons when people start breaking them. And they're like, get Dark Souls. Because you know what? These guys are going to be holding these things in their hands, these little things. You're going to get pissed.
You can crush them.
Crush them. This will really boost their sales.
I went
Get that
in.
accessory money.
Oh, when I was buying Christmas gifts and stuff, I was looking at, you know, Switch stuff or whatever, and I went to, I was like, I didn't have a Pro controller yet, and I went and looked, and I had forgotten how expensive the Pro controller is, and then when I saw that it was like 90 Canadian dollars for a Pro controller, I did like a triple take, and then I walked the fuck away. I can't believe they're charging $90 for that. That's crazy.
That's why I use my Joy-Con controller, and I'm perfectly happy with it.
Oh my god, it's insane. I mean, somebody must be buying them. I don't know who. You'd be crazy. $100 for a controller.
The wife's upstairs playing the Switch right now, actually.
Oh, what's she in on?
She's been playing Mario.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good game. Great game.
No, it is good. I look forward to playing it myself. I plan on doing that. I want to play a bunch of Switch stuff now that the Switch is here and there's actually a handful of games. I'm probably gonna block out some time for the stream and play some.
Like, what else did they announce? I completely missed the direct. Like, I saw it, but I have no idea what they announced. So I'm really curious. Like,
so they announced
they
a
did the
whack of
exclusive
stuff.
listing, right?
Yeah, so they announced a whack of stuff. You can easily find it on GameSpot right now. I think it's like one of the top news things in the feed. But like a lot of them were kind of what we saw with Mario Kart, where they're doing like an updated Wii U version with like all the content.
They already did though.
No, but I don't mean Mario Kart specifically. I mean apply that logic to other games.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So pretty much just bringing upgraded versions.
Yeah, so they're doing some upgraded versions to some of the games. I can't remember.
Anything like new?
Well, they announced stuff that we've already seen at E3. So there's a Yoshi game coming, and they talked to think about Kirby of some kind.
I'd like a Yoshi's Island 2 or whatever.
Yeah, no, this one's apparently like, I don't know, it's weird. They do weird things with Yoshi now. So this new game that's coming, apparently every level is like a diorama, and you can look at the diorama from various angles, and so I'm sure
so it's more of a puzzle game.
Yeah, the level design thing is going to be pretty crazy, I'm sure. Sounds interesting. I'm go Nintendo. But yeah, nothing really stood out to me. Like most of it was just kind of except for and Jeff, I don't know if you saw this. I think you probably did if you saw any of the E3 stuff. The Octopath Traveler thing that Square, it's a JRPG that Square's doing that is a mixture of like SNES graphics and kind of modern graphics mashed up, and it looks visually amazing.
I didn't see it.
Octopath Traveler.
That should be a good game. That's if I remember correctly, the reason we're not getting like a console version of Bravely Default is because the studio that did Bravely Default is doing Octopath.
Yes, here send it to you on Discord if you want to take a peek at it. But it looks good. I hope it plays as well as it looks. But yeah, that's probably for me on the Switch. That's the one thing I'm looking forward to this year is that. Oh yeah, Donkey Kong. What's it called? Tropical Freeze. Was that the thing?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. So that was also mentioned as well. And yeah, so it was a jam-packed Nintendo Direct, mostly just with announcing of games, but the majority of which we already knew about from E3. The crazy bit is a lot of them that we saw at E3, we still don't really have too much to go on. Like some of them are still working titles, but yet there's totally being released apparently in 2018. So some of these might be kind of like the last minute get them out the door, or they're just playing their cards super close to their chest until E3 of this year. I have no idea. But one way or another, The highlight for me was the fact that Dark Souls is out on the Switch, or coming to the Switch, because that just blew my mind. Also, for those who are Dark Souls fans, they have a trilogy edition thing that I think is being released in Japan. If you're one of those people that will import, it's this big collection of all the games, and it's got 2 bookends and a bunch of other collector-y stuff as well. That looks really cool, and of course comes with all the games. We're going to forget that Dark Souls 2 existed, but everything else is in there. And totally, you can give that a little peek-see as well. I'm sure somebody like Major is going to be all over that, one of our community members who I think has played more Dark Souls than every other person I know combined. So that will be for
that game looks
for
pretty
those.
cool. It's very cool looking.
The
It's
visual is
something that I would
crazy, isn't it?
definitely- Yeah. It's definitely something I'd play on the Switch, like just on an airplane or
Mhm.
just chilling in bed. Definitely, these are the type of games that I would love to see more of. Like,
Yeah.
this is really, really intriguing.
Yeah, when I saw the first clip of it, I immediately went. It was like my Cuphead experience all over again. I saw the visual and I went, yes,
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty.
I didn't know I need that in my life, but as it turns out,
I'll take it.
I need that in my life.
I
So-
will definitely be buying this game for sure.
I just really hope the gameplay holds up to the visual, because the visual is so friggin' awesome. That I hope they nailed that. But if it's the same people that did Bravely Default, then it's probably not going to be.
Final Fantasy game that not Final Fantasy.
Yes, exactly. So hopefully, yeah, they do right by it. But for sure, Jeff's super quiet. He sounds the exact same volume in my headphones as he does
Yeah.
every other week.
All my levels are the exact same. Should be
Yeah.
fine.
Should be fine. Sounds the same level as Panic. I can turn myself down if that's the issue. But anyway, yeah. In fact, I'll do that for them. This does not affect you on iTunes. Do not worry. It's just for everyone else. There's MasterCard. Oh my goodness! How did I forget the biggest one in here? I'm an idiot. The one that I was really looking forward to in this direct. They're bringing back Mario Tennis.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that today.
And they've got like a career story mode thing in it as well. And
Now here's a question: are you gonna have the Joy-Con control where you swing them around with them ice cube feeling?
not a chance in hell.
What about Mario Golf? Are we getting that back?
I would imagine we're gonna see Mario Golf back at some point, but Mario Tennis on the N64 was one of like my favorite
Oh, it was
games
a great game.
on the N64. And so if they bring that back and it does, and it's done well,
Troopa.
I am on board without question. On board without question. Moving on. Oh, here's a quick one. Jeff, well, obviously, the Witcher series,
Yep.
right? So, I don't know if you heard about the game that they're doing. That's the first one in forever that isn't The Witcher, called Cyberpunk something. They announced this years ago now at this point, pretty much. They had their first Twitter post on Cyberpunk's Twitter in 4 years. You want to know what the tweet was?
What does it say?
It's
Coming soon?
4 years. The tweet
Been a
was
long build up
the tweet was beep
with asterisks around it.
with yeah, to be fair, asterisks were on the side of the beep.
Well, maybe that means that there's a pulse. You know?
The heart
They've
beats
been,
once
Yeah, like,
every
they have
4
a tendency
years.
to they have a tendency to go dark for long periods when they're developing. This is what CD Projekt does. But yeah, like I was like,
Go
I like,
dark.
Go dark
No,
4 years.
I was like sitting there, and I have that account on Notify, and like I got a notification. I look at my phone. I'm like, oh shit, some big announcement. I look at it. I'm like, oh, what the? Did this tweet beep?
Somebody had it. Somebody gave
And my
birth
boss
to
just
their,
kind of looked at me, and he's just like, you look really annoyed. I'm like, forget it. You wouldn't understand. I just put my phone down.
Somebody gave birth to a child around the time Cyberpunk was announced, and that child's getting ready to go into friggin' school. And the first tweet they had in that entire period of time is beep. It's crazy. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe that means that we're going to get more soon. Maybe that means we're not going to hear anything until E3. I don't know.
Like booting up now.
Yeah, but that lots of people waiting on that. If you go to the tweet, that's probably retweeted a bajillion times and everything else. And lots of people waiting on that bad boy. Even I am, because I'm not a big into the Witcher thing, so I'm thinking maybe Cyberpunk will be the game from the studio that I can actually get in on. Jeff looks really entertained right now.
I just look at some of this shit up. It just looks stupid.
Oh, the beep or whatever? Yeah. I'm sure it's getting memed to hell and everything now.
I was just on Twitter just seeing people's reactions.
Yeah. There's probably a mixture of like elation and saltiness and just like everything in between. Yeah. Amazing. 17,000 retweets, 45,000 likes. Can you tell that there are a few people waiting for this game sitting around?
Dude, it's like one of the only accounts I have like set to like alert me whenever they tweet.
Oh yeah. You know what I need to set my account to alert for? Enchanted Arms 2. Waiting out on that sequel.
Is that actually coming out?
No.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, what the fuck?
That game, you know how much that game sold? That game sold somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it was like 190,000 total units. Which was impressive to me, even that they even managed to get that many units out. But I want a sequel, and I want it to be solely about Makoto, just the gay saxophone player, voiced by Liam. What's his last name again? Guy who does oh my god. Liam O'Brien? No, not O'Brien. No?
I don't know.
I don't care.
No, he's the guy who voices, what's his face in Warcraft. It is Liam O'Brien. The guy who did Makoto in Enchanted Arms, the gay saxophone player, one of the greatest performances of all time. Oh my god. Why can't I think of his name right now? That's terrible. Somebody in chat, hook me up. My brain, I went to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm a little strung out right now. If I could just get some help in chat so I can remember what Warcraft character it is that he voices. Illidan! He's Illidan from freaking Warcraft, and he's the one that voiced that character.
I'm happy you and 3 people care.
Oh my god!
I want to know what I'm gonna get back for that time.
Oh, you get the knowledge that the one of the most high profile voice actors of all time played a random gay as the hills are alive, flamboyant, over the top saxophone player in a Japanese RPG that nobody bought. That's what you get. Magic.
Dude, I'm looking at the cyberpunk. I'm still on the cyberpunk shit. And somebody post, "Are you alive, bro?" And they put fucking Logan Paul in the Japanese suicide forest making the weird face. Dude, there's so many memes.
Dude, we're gonna be getting to that Logan Paul not too distant future.
Oh god.
Yeah. We have to, dude. People have been asking me forever if we're gonna talk about that, and I was like, well, we probably should.
You have the perfect description
of it. If we
would
have done it last week, we could have got 1 million views.
That
on the
was
podcast.
our opportunity. Yep, that was it.
Yeah,
could have blown up.
We wasted it.
Unfortunate. Speaking of blowing up, Intel and AMD are shitting the bed fierce with a couple of absolutely massive security holes. Although, to be fair to AMD, only one of the two apply. Unfortunately, the one of the two doesn't make it any less horrible. They're
not as bad as everyone's making it out to be, though.
Well, no,
bad,
of course not.
But
they're bad.
They're not apocalyptic.
For the average user, this is not the end of the world. For more enterprise level people, this is probably a pain in the ass. So I'm going to hand this off to Panic to describe all of this while I drink water, and because I couldn't even remember the guy's name from Warcraft. So I'm just going to give this over to Panic for now and describe what's happening here.
Yeah, so before anyone goes nuts, this isn't bad. The main one is already patched, and Intel has been patching it. All the OSs have already patched it, so you don't really need to worry as long as you have your Windows updates on. There were two exploits. One's called Meltdown, one called Spectre. You can Google them both and get a ton of info on them if you really want to. The long and short of it is Intel made a bunch of design decisions in their processors somewhere around the time Pentium 4 died. And this bug has been in there. It's not really even bug. This thing has been in there ever since. So it impacts like everything going back to like the start of the architecture. Um, so Meltdown is that specific issue, and it's already patched. You get your updates, you're good. Um, the more concerning one is called Spectre, which is a larger subset of what Meltdown is. Pretty much whenever your computer goes to do some code, one of the big examples is like you have an if statement that says if something is true, do this. If it's false, otherwise, do this. In order to make computers a lot faster, especially when they can do all this multiple processing stuff, while it's figuring out if it's true or false, it's actually executing both sets of code side by side. So what happened was after about a decade, someone's finally in a lab after sitting for a long period of time figured out exactly how to be like, okay, we've executed both paths. I need to see the memory for the path that I threw out, or I wasn't supposed to execute. And then you can get access to that in the cache. So like if a password or something random got loaded in.
It's like rummaging through somebody's trash when they put it on the sidewalk before it gets
Yeah,
collected, basically.
But the thing is, instead of the trash, it's like you're rummaging through someone's landfill at like a specific moment in time when the landfill moves all the time.
Yeah.
So when I say it's not a terrible thing, it's gotta be, it's very hard to kind of put together and get an exploit out. But the reason we didn't hear about it until now was because they were working on patching it. So Meltdown is patched, and that's for Intel only. Spectre is harder to patch because it's much more general, and that impacts AMD, ARM, and Intel also. But the likelihood of an exploit coming out that's going to impact you as like a person is very slim because it's very hard to do. The people who really need to worry about it are like Amazon and Google and Microsoft, who run these large cloud data centers, because it kind of lets you see things that you might not be able to see like on someone else's virtual instance. But at the time, again, still very hard to actually do. So you're going to hear a lot of FUD and a lot of people freaking out. You're going to see a lot of lawsuits and crap. It's really not terrible. And at the end of the day, it's already more or less handled.
Yeah.
And yeah, there, for the Intel thing, the big thing that people were like latching onto is that there's like a performance hit. And yeah, there is. I actually had to do some testing at work and at other places for the Intel bug. And yeah, for very specific scenarios, which you're never going to actually run into in your day-to-day life, you'll get a 30% hit. Like literally, we only hit that on like a synthetic test where we explicitly did the thing that has the bug fix, and that's 100% of the time. 30%, but in general, it was anywhere from like 2 to 4% hit, which even then is not a lot.
Doesn't it affect stuff like compression, so zipping files and stuff?
No, not entirely. So it's very specific. So effectively, what happens is for the Intel bug is there's two spaces in the processor in a computer.
Yeah.
There's user space and kernel space. Kernel space is the protected stuff that your OS and only your OS should be doing stuff in. And that's like, again, from like Windows original to Windows 10. Windows 10 has done a very good job of separating kernel space from user space. Linux does that too. And certain applications may need to, you go to the kernel to do like a very specific operation, like do a very specific operation on a piece of hardware, or do certain disk read-write operations. That's the only time you're going to use a kernel call. All the other times, everything's just doing their own shit in the user space, and that's whatever. That's not nearly as secure. The bug was, given a certain thing in the user space, you could actually get cache data from the kernel space. So what the patch does is effectively, AMD never had the problem because AMD says if you have a user space thing, you can't do anything to the kernel space. We're just going to reject it anyway. Intel's was just like, we do both, and they made the decision that that kernel space thing is not going to be live long enough to get, so it'll just go away. That unfortunately ended up being false. So you can grab it. So Intel's patch is to effectively do, block that call, so you can't do it.
Yeah.
So you have to actually directly do the kernel call.
So yeah, a lot of people losing
Very
their minds.
complicatedly technical, but it's not common.
Yeah, there's. I guess at the end of the day, the most important thing to realize is that for you, the user, you're not really going to see
Get
too
your
much
patches.
come out of this. The most important thing is that when, I know everyone hates to do this, but when your computer tells you to update it, do it. And make sure it's updated. Otherwise, you don't really have much to worry about. That's pretty much it. It's like most things got blown out of proportion. Now, mind you, it didn't get blown out of proportion for, like Panic was saying, people like Microsoft and Amazon and these, server hosts. It is I would assume a massive pain in the ass for them to be dealing with, and at the very least, even if it's a slim chance that somebody actually does, do something to target this at that kind of a level. The idea of it probably has a few people shitting themselves at a higher level in some of these corporations, but I'm sure they'll have it sorted out, and hopefully it doesn't affect them too much in the process. Moving on to a less technical and one that this is the man that everyone loves to hate right now, except for everyone between the ages of 9 and 13 who just want to love everyone that their parents hate. It's Logan Paul. I know we're late to the party on this one, but I feel like he's probably not going to be out of the news for a while yet. Mostly because YouTube could not have mishandled this situation harder if they tried. So
Didn't they respond today with their actual things?
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was bad across the board. It was terrible. I mean, I think without getting too far ahead of ourselves here, in regards to that response, Philip DeFranco put up like this little quick video on Twitter and was like, YouTube, you were just handed a softball. The easiest. You didn't have to think about this one. You didn't have to just complicate it or anything. This was a softball for you to say, okay, we're going to axe all this. This is the lines have been crossed on so many different places. We don't have to think about it. And instead, they kind of did their usual, little corporate dance around because Mr. Logan Paul makes them an awful lot of money. And we wouldn't want to completely get rid of Logan Paul because that would just be bad for everyone involved, I guess. So obviously, I'm going to say the majority of people listening to this know who Logan Paul is at this point. You might not have before this happened.
I had to look him up.
But now you probably do. He is the brother of arguably equivalent fuckboy status, Jake Paul, who both of them combined have cornered the market on YouTube for small children in terms of viewership, doing some of the dumbest, most... what's even the best way to put it? Just they're bad. There's too many words that would describe it, but they're obnoxious is probably the best word to describe both of the brothers. And if you go and watch, as an adult, if you go and watch Logan Paul, you almost want to say that he has like some sort of mania. Like he's in a different fucking universe, this guy. He's living like an out-of-body experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So Logan went off to Japan to do what Logan does, which is basically go out in public and scream at the top of his lungs random nonsense. Occasionally plugging his own brand, the Mavericks or whatever weird friggin' Angel Wings.
That's an understatement.
And then basically saying that anything he does is under the name of being a Maverick, so it kind of like makes it okay that he's being an asshole in public. Yeah, kind of. Oh God, yeah, that's a good tie-in. So he went off to Japan, and he was doing his usual Logan Paul whatever, which was honestly, a lot of the stuff that he did there was overshadowed by what we're about to talk about here, but he also did a lot of stuff he definitely shouldn't have been doing in Japan. He goes out and decides that him and I guess it was a couple of friends, he had another guy with him, I don't know who these people are, and some girl, and then there's security guy that he hired while they were in Japan, a local security detail dude, and they're gonna go to the suicide forest in Japan. If you don't know what the suicide forest is in Japan, you can tell by the name exactly what the suicide forest is. It's a place where a disproportionate number of Japanese citizens choose to be their resting place after they take their own lives for whatever reason. It's an incredibly sad location, but yet in some weird dichotomous fashion, it's also like a national park type thing. You'll see kids running around with their families and stuff. It's real weird kind of a situation, but frequently people will take their lives in this forest. So Logan and his friends go off on their magical journey, and you have to imagine that in the back of their mind, they're hoping in some weird way that they're going to come across something in the forest. And lo and behold, about 100 feet friggin' inside from the parking lot, a man had unfortunately decided to take his life. He hung himself by a tree in the forest. And this happened, I mean, probably inside of 9-10 hours of them having arrived at the scene. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but most people, if you walked into anywhere, not doesn't have to be a forest, you can walk into a room, you see somebody is dead in any position. The majority of people are going to have a relatively opposite reaction to whatever the hell it is that we saw in this video of these guys out in the forest. One, dead shock. I'd probably shit myself almost immediately. If I walked in a room and I saw a dead body, as desensitized as I am after all the stuff that I've seen on the internet and playing games over years, whatever, all the movies and stuff where we're all kind of whatever, there's still reality to it. If you see a dead body in real life, it is a totally different friggin' experience. It is wildly, wildly different. Shock, maybe you call, I don't know, the police or an ambulance. Or just emergency services might be one of the first things that you do, depending on the situation that you happen upon. You certainly don't decide to turn on a camera and then go on after being edited down. You can imagine how much footage they have, because if you get to see the video, and it's probably been re-uploaded in various ways because the original was taken down. Mm-hmm. There's a good amount of footage here. Which means that they had, as far as like raw footage to edit this thing,
they were sat there and edited.
They were there for a while. They were in the woods for a good chunk of time, and they're talking about, and they're like getting up close to it, and they're pointing out how the hands are blue. They only like blurred out the face barely. It was like the shittiest like job in the world of trying to censor what people would have been seeing on YouTube. They were laughing. Now I can understand that there is nervous laughter. I laugh when I'm nervous sometimes too. But when it came to Logan specifically, his friends looked like they were actually like in shock for the majority of this video. Logan himself though, he couldn't even strip himself out of his persona. He was still being like this kind of obnoxious whatever, and he was like, man, this is gonna be on like my top what was the quote, like this is gonna be like my top 5 craziest things I've ever seen. Like it was, I can't even put it into words how weird it was watching this video. Not because I saw the guy hanging in the tree so much.
Himself.
He's just that's why I said
even,
he can't pull himself out. That's why I said it's like he's living in a third person perspective all the time, because if he was in his own head and you couldn't tell that everyone around you wants to remove the head from your shoulders all the time because you're standing in the middle of a square screaming at the top of your lungs, disturbing everyone else around you in a country where that's literally the opposite of what you would do at any given point in fucking time, and then you go and do something like this, is crazy. But the most important thing before I hand it off for you guys to talk about, the thing that bugged me was when his apology thing came out, and he basically danced around the entire thing, and then didn't bring to light the fact that somebody, either himself or somebody else, there was a huge thought process here. It wasn't a mistake. He tried to frame it like a mistake. He tried to frame it like he took like a fucking Snapchat video, and then it just boom, it was up. It was just boom, it's done. Or he was like live on like Periscope or some shit, and oops, found somebody. That's a mistake. This motherfucker took what was probably between 10 and 30 minutes of footage, and either himself or somebody else stopped, thought to themselves, should we do this? Yeah, okay, why not? And then went and edited the video, and then had multiple points of time in which they probably kept stopping and thinking, Are we sure we want to post this video on YouTube?
Oh, I guarantee you they did not have the mentality of, oh, should we post this video? Their mentality was, oh, we're going to get so many friggin' hits on this.
And
even if we
then
get smacked, that's it.
He puts
In a
the
couple of
fucking
days.
thumbnail of the poor man hanging in the godforsaken tree. And you want to tell me, Mr. Maverick Logan fucking Paul, poster child for fuckboy of the year all years, that it was a mistake? Go fuck yourself.
Oh, it was premeditated as fuck.
Go fuck yourself, Logan Paul, with all your millions of dollars because you get a bunch of little children. And that's the really fucked up part, is that all these kids defend Logan in this whole thing. Because when you're that young, you don't see what's really fucking you don't process, oh, there's a dead dude in a tree, fucking, you don't get that when you're 10 years old. And then when your parents come in and they say, yeah, you should probably not be watching Logan Paul anymore, and no matter how much you try to describe to your children why that's a bad thing, at that age, what do the majority of kids do? They tell their parents to go take a long walk off a fucking short pier. It's cooler. Logan becomes cooler because dad and mom think that Logan's bad. So now I'm going to watch Logan 5 times as much. That's the fucked up part, is that Logan is influencing all these little kiddies, and he puts a video out like this. It's crazy. Just looking at his face makes me want to fucking punch him sometimes. He's got that fucking wacky ass aliens fucking hair, sitting at like conventions and shit, Maverick this and Maverick that, and running his mouth on all this crap. He shouldn't be on YouTube, period, anymore. He's be gone.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But I'll draw this comparison. I'm going to hand it off to Jeff. Think about how PewDiePie got treated. Okay?
PewDiePie actually responded to it today. He said,
I want you to just hold on. I want you to just think about this. PewDiePie got crucified by everyone down to the Wall Street fucking Journal for a joke that was in poor taste, but it sure as shit wasn't a premeditated, uploaded video of a poor man that took his life in the fucking forest in Japan by some foreign fuckboy that came over and took this video, and then YouTube puts it on trending. Trending is a manually chosen list, and they fucking left it on trending for like 10 fucking hours. 10 million people seeing this video. Think of how these two situations were treated, and then tell me that YouTube isn't a fucking cesspool and the CEO isn't insane.
PewDiePie actually came out and explicitly said that he's like, what I did was shitty. And he straight out said that. He's like, but the big difference here is what I did was shitty and in the privacy of my own home with my viewers. Logan Paul is like, he said, is at like some whole other level because this guy goes out, explicitly travels, and then he rubs people's faces in his like disrespect, rudeness, and like being an asshole. So he's like, I get what I did was shitty, but Logan Paul is 10 times worse because he's actually actively impacting people.
It is crazy.
Which I actually agreed with.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're both idiots.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I just mean in terms of how it was treated.
There's orders of
Yeah,
magnitudes.
for me, it's like, it's whatever on both of them. They both done dumb things. We've all done dumb things. Now, I'm not about to go and say I've gone to a Japanese forest and just done some shit.
That's
all right?
an 11.
That's a
more
14.
than an 11.
Yeah, that's
that's a 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an idiot. I mean, he's just a moron. I think what it is I was never a fan of his stuff anyway. I've seen some of his videos. It's hard not to. Every other YouTuber, Philip DeFranco, we talk about Philip DeFranco. Philip DeFranco is also the same type of guy that will use somebody like Jake Paul or Logan Paul to generate views and use his name to further his pockets.
Well, I suppose, but Philip's also doing a news show. I mean, I know he is, but I mean,
it is true. But I mean, Philip will talk about Logan Paul's a stain on his shirt for a view, right? Is what they do. And Philip DeFranco, all of those guys, I do like Philip DeFranco's show. I do watch it quite often. I think he's great at what he does. I think he's a fair, if you want to call him a journalist, I guess you could.
I call him new media.
Yeah, new media. I think he's fair. He raised a lot of points. He still is opinionated. He doesn't often just go through the middle to kind of appease everybody. He does often have his own thoughts on things, which I can appreciate. But, I mean, everybody in YouTube is also that continues to feed off of Logan Paul and Jake Paul. They're also part of the problem. And they are fueling these guys' fame, and they're rewarding their actions, because no matter what they do, if they do something stupid, everybody talks about them for views, and then people will go and watch them. And as you continue to watch, their ego and their persona and everything just kind of amplifies. And this isn't, I'm not by any means blaming anybody on what Logan Paul has done, but I'm just saying the amount of people that are shitting all over Logan Paul right now it's kind of annoying, because it's one of those things where everybody, I mean, celebrities, news, you name it, they were picking up on this story. Obviously, it's a huge thing. Somebody was humiliated even after death, and God only knows what the family has gone through, or if they even know what happened beforehand. And hearing about this on the internet would just be catastrophic. But at the same time, say your piece and then just let this fucker, do whatever this guy does. It is up to YouTube to ultimately shut this dude down or strike him or whatever it is that YouTube does. But it's obviously that YouTube only cares about their pockets. They only care about their poster boys. And even PewDiePie was that poster boy until YouTube was under too much heat, and then eventually removed PewDiePie's YouTube Red series and got rid of the Disney thing and, all this shit. They basically had their way with PewDiePie and just threw him to the burner. I don't think they're going to do the same with the Paulers, they call them,
Paulers.
because they're megastars, right? They're
They
megastars.
they already did a bunch of them.
And it's one of these things where I just sit back and just go, what the fuck? And I can't really blame Logan Paul fully for what happened, which is going to sound insane, because these guys come from Vine, and these guys are young. This is all they know. From being a teenager into adulthood into celebrity status. I mean, these guys are as famous as A-list actors. And, their presence, the yes people around them, that's the only thing they know. It's almost like, I keep going back to watching Fast and the Furious. You watch another Fast and the Furious, and they just go bigger and bigger, right? We made the thing. They're going to be in space on the next one, for Christ's sake. It's the same thing with these Paulers, is they need to up the ante. They need to up the shock value. They need to up the energy. I mean, if you watch Logan Paul's videos from beginning to where they're at now, I mean, the energy is fucking insane. They're like, what is up? What is up, Mavericks? This is crazy. We're just going Mavericks! We're going nuts. Today we're going to the Japanese suicide forest. And it's haunted. And we're going to see something. And it's going to be the first of its kind. And you know what? In theory, it sounds like a really cool idea. It sounds like a very unique video. It's different. You're in Japan. But these assholes, they don't even know what real life is like. They don't. This is what I like to believe anyway, because I don't think anybody can be that big a piece of shit to film a dead body hanging from a tree, laugh about it, which you said everybody goes through trauma differently. Some people laugh, some people cry, some people say nothing, some people run, who knows, right? You can't play that card. But to film it, to sit there, to continue filming, to make these comments like, oh, this is, I bet you there's never been a dead body on YouTube before, or like, finding a, whatever, going back, like you said, editing a video, putting up a thumbnail, uploading the video, and then releasing the video, and then letting the video sit there, and then have your entire community upvote the video like crazy, because it wasn't until it hit social media and people will go, whoa, what the fuck? Is this real?
What is going on?
And that's when the backlash started happening, and that's when shit went downhill. So what I have to do is I have to put my own, my sanity away, and I have to think like a spoiled, immature, uneducated. I mean, you even look at his father, and I hate to take shots at people's parents, but his dad even made a video on a bus or some shit, I don't know. And he was talking about, shout outs to all the Paulers out there, and we're strong, and he's, doing the whole spiel, the whole we're a team, we're in this together, we'll be back stronger. Don't worry, the Paulers, they're gonna be back doing their thing. Everybody fucks up. Listen to what Dr. Phil said, and he's going on defending his sons, which is what parents would do. But you would also think that a parent that actually has common sense would come out, seeing as that there is a bunch of kids that watch the stuff, that coming from an adult, an actual adult, a parent would come out and say, listen. And he did. He said, yeah, he messed up, but he was just defending him, and you could see that the whole group is just absorbed
went
with
to their head.
What they have, and they're so detached from reality that you almost can't get mad. You can get mad, but you almost can't blame Logan Paul for his actions, because it's almost like he doesn't have anybody that'll tell him no. Nobody in that group, no friend there. I know I could say for me or for Adam or Tabin, if we were there, we'd go, the fuck, dude.
You want to know what that sounds like?
Get out of here. Like
affluenza. That bullshit from the 5 years ago?
It's messed up. It's if one of us were there, we would have been like, yeah, this is where I leave. This is where we should pull out my cell phone, yell,
call someone, do something.
I get, yeah. Go ahead.
The thing is what I'm getting at, and I think you can understand, is you get a lot of money very quickly. You get super famous. You have this invincible status. You basically are brought up probably since he hit puberty. He's been in the spotlight. It's constantly a show. His life is a show. I'm sure when he walks around, his brain is thinking, how can I set this up in a video? How can I set the scene up? What kind of editing things are we going to put in here? The way that he probably thinks is a show. Everything, kind of like as a streamer. If you're sitting at home and you're like, well, I may as well stream, or the psychological things that you go through where it consumes your life. And I think that it's not even a show. You are legitimately just watching this guy essentially make a fool of himself without him even knowing he's a fool. And that's the way I look at it. So yeah, he's a fucking idiot. Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and defend him, but I think people should look at it in a different light, that this guy just needs some reality check. He needs some help. He needs some grounding. It's almost like the Justin Bieber thing, right? Where Justin Bieber, super rich, super quick, does a lot of dumb shit. Now, he doesn't go to Japanese forest and film somebody that hung themselves. Yes, but his people around him are yes people, and he did a lot of stupid shit. And it wasn't until he made a ton of mistakes, he grew up a little bit, and he surrounded himself with different people where you could start to see a bit of a change. Now, whether it's for show or not, who knows? But I think Logan Paul and Jake Paul kind of need to go through the same thing, and hopefully something like this. It's sad that it came at the expense of the poor guy who took his life, and I think honestly what Logan Paul was thinking was, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great views, and I think psychologically, he actually thought he was going to help people. I think he legitimately thought that putting out this video and putting a thing about suicide and putting a link underneath would do some good. And I think that he thought that people would look him in a positive light. You know, they make these stupid videos of when there's a flood and shit, when there's a big flood and we're going to go down there and we're going to save people. And they get Sea-Doos and they're going around and they're showing everybody how awesome of people they are. And they're looking for that thumb up Maverick bomb and go get yourself a hoodie and we're going to donate some of the stuff to the people. And you know what? It's great. But at the same time, you can tell they're searching for some sort of validation. They're constantly looking for approval. And I think that in his twisted mind, he thought that this was actually going to be a positive thing, and it was the complete opposite. That's what I think. Maybe I'm naive.
I want to believe. I want to go to the church of Mr. Maximus
I think it's
Black.
hard to not believe that in his specific case.
Yeah, like,
because of how he's been brought up and how big he is and how fast.
You're hoping that it's not malicious intent and that he had.
Exactly.
You're hoping that in his mind he thought he was doing something good, but it was, as opposed to him being like, oh yeah, if I go take video of a dead body or find something, I'll get a ton of views, because that's much more. That's much worse
part of it.
than thinking I can bring suicide.
I think that's part of it, but I think in his twisted head, he thinks that getting a ton of views from this and shedding light on this issue, whether it's mental illness or depression or suicide, that he thought like, yes, the thumbnail will get a lot of views. It will bring a lot of people in. But in terms, we're going to show them that, you know, taking your life isn't the right way to do it. And this is how you can help yourself. I truly believe that that's what he thought. It's not like he went a Logic route where he made a song about suicide and depression and it wasn't in any bad light. He just went to an extreme because that's what he does on his channel, and he so happened to stumble upon a body. It's not like he went in there, you know, knowing he was going to find a dead body hanging from a tree, right? It just kind of happened, and then they just went with it. And I'm sure he regrets the living hell out of doing that, obviously.
I think that it's somewhere in the middle of all of that. I want to sit here and play Dr. Phil and comb through his life and find a million reasons why Logan Paul would come to the conclusion of posting this video being an okay thing, or that any one of the other people in the chain along the way would have had to have basically experienced the exact same issues to be able to get to that point to allow Logan Paul to make that call or not speak up about it or anything.
But you also got to understand, when you're in that environment and there's a young guy who's very wealthy and he's paying your bills and you live a lavish life with him and you do all those things. The type of people that are in his circle are just not those type of people.
Yes, men.
And if they were, they wouldn't be in his circle.
I get you.
It's just the way it is.
The echo chamber.
I get you. But I basically I guess I want to believe that somebody even at 22 in his status that he has, and yeah, the Justin Bieber thing and the call and let's do coke and drive a Lambo into a telephone pole and whatever else we want to do scenario. I want to believe all of that to a point, but there has to be there's a line somewhere.
It's been crossed. It's been crossed.
Well, no, but there's a line somewhere, right, where that. No, I don't want to call it an argument because it's reality. It's not an argument that kind of the childhood stardom thing is a thing, but there has to be a line somewhere where at a certain age, that regardless of fandom and regardless of star status and regardless about just, you know, how much fucking smoke you got blown up your own ass on a daily basis, there's a line somewhere, because like at what point can we no longer
has that line.
At what point
you
can
get that line through experience?
But what point can you? Yeah, well.
Yeah, but Adam, think about it this way. Think about all the racist people out there. Grown-ass people.
No, I get you. You're grown up with it, and it's around you, and it's all you think and do, and whatever.
It's ingrained in you. You don't know the difference, right?
Yeah.
You don't. The right and wrong switch that's in there.
It gets muddled.
Your
gets
perspective
confused.
is.
I get you. I get you. We went to school with a fuckload of people that were brought up in environments that turn them into complete crazies. Like I'm with you, but I can't fathom in my own mind that somebody that found stardom through fucking Vine has lost the filter so far that a dead body in a tree becomes okay. Like I get all the things you talked about. Yes, 100%. Which is why he can go to Japan and like run around in a Pikachu outfit, stop traffic, throw balls underneath cars, fucking throw them at security guards, go into a restaurant, whip his dick out, fucking smack bitches with it, and be like, "Ha, Maverick!" Like, yeah, I get that, 100%. Because now that no filter for that. But what I'm saying is that for his experience, which is getting famous on 30-second clips on a fucking social media website, converting to YouTube, is that I can't fathom how that switch is turned off for a dead dude in a tree to go and do that. And that nobody in his Yes Men club could gather up the fucking sense to do anything about it either.
They might have. You never know. They may have
You
said,
don't know
dude,
what
this
the
is not a
B-roll or
good
whatever,
idea.
yeah.
Like, this
Which
isn't
would be
a good
even
idea.
worse.
And he might have even just said, fuck, put it up.
Which is
Like,
even
you know,
worse.
Yeah, well, in his twisted mind, he might have just thought, like, hey, man, I'm fucking running the show here. This is going to be a positive thing and put it up. I'm not trying to defend Logan Paul. The guy's a fucking twat. Like, he's an absolute twat. And if I was a parent, he'd be the last thing that I would want my kids watching, period. But the reality of it is, he's a superstar. He's a megastar. This is only going to make him more famous. People are going to be over this in T-minus. I'm surprised it's even lasted this long. And life will go on. That's it. And it's either he's going to learn from this or he's not. And we'll find out. I get what you're saying, but I just think he's mentally not all
he
there.
is, which is why I said in the beginning that he's living in a third person, disassociated like from the entire situation, doesn't understand that 90% of what he does is really not okay. And the problem is, like you said, he's searching for validation. He's finding it everywhere. The motherfucker, every time he posts a video up, like I think you might have also said this when he posted this video up originally before anyone from the real fucking universe that lives in the real world found it, and it was just his fans. The like ratio to dislike there was like next to nothing. So it's not that he's not getting validation. It's not that he's not getting validation. He's in an echo chamber filled with 12-year-olds screaming at him that everything he does is fucking incredible. So like, yeah, a reality check hopefully it comes, but then that's the problem. YouTube's not handing him a reality check. His dad's not handing him a reality check. So I don't know if he's even going to get a reality check. And Lord knows, next up, he's going to end up like, where do you go from dead dude hanging in a tree if you don't have a reality check? Where's your next stop on that list? I can't even fucking fathom it. I don't think
there is any other stop beyond that. I think that's probably the worst it gets.
Oops, I hit somebody with my car. I'll make a video about it. Like, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. I'm actually more angry at YouTube than I am Logan.
Well, yeah, YouTube actually knows what they should do, but they're not doing anything.
Yeah, they messed up. That's for sure.
That's the more heinous thing here. It's I don't know about more heinous, but it's more disappointing. I think that YouTube is handling it the way they are, in that they're not really handling it. It's, we're going to take away just a little bit over here. He's still going to make millions of dollars off YouTube. Just, we're going to do this, that, whatever. There's no real ramifications here for Logan Paul or anything else.
Well,
and what it ends up doing is it hurts a bunch of other people because the ad networks take even further shit off the platform.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets even worse. But Logan's still fine.
Someone in chat actually just said something that I want to say because I think it's the greatest point ever. The only reason Logan Paul didn't get punched in the face while he was in Japan is because that's not their culture.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's from America, so in America, flies fine anyway. But if he went and did that shit in, like, Scotland, he'd get dummied. Fucking buckled on the ground. Some Scot come up with a fucking kilt and shit all over him right in the middle of fucking public.
You want to know what's crazy is if YouTube banished the Paulers, or even one of them, got rid of their channel. These guys are so famous and so powerful. They could literally make their own service and start to take a huge chunk right out of YouTube. You would know that they would have everybody over there They would have their Team 10 or their Team 15 or whatever the fuck they call themselves. Everybody would have their own channel, and they would be able to, they'd make even more money, and they would be an actual competition to YouTube. They're that powerful. And so I don't think YouTube even wants to mess around with these guys, because they're so influential and they make so much money for the platform that they're scared. I think YouTube is legitimately scared of these guys. It's like the UFC and Conor McGregor. It's, you just kind of slap them on the wrist and be like, yeah, I don't totally agree with it, but
can't really do anything about it.
It's Conor. He made $100 million.
No,
he'll be back when he's back. It's kind of like the Paulers. Hey, it's the Paulers. We can't really control them. They're their own beast, but they make us a ton of fucking money. So, can you do?
Yeah, and it's not about spreading. Somebody said this in chat after I said it. It's not about spreading hate and it'll make it better. And let's talk about punching him. What we're saying is that if he did what he did in other countries, that would be his reality check. Be like, wait, you mean I can't stand in traffic and do this shit? Oh, that's my bad. I apologize then. As he's on the ground because he got his shit kicked by somebody that just couldn't put up with him anymore. Like, that's not about people spreading hate. Think about that for a moment. No. You do that shit in public. There are a lot of places where people,
you're gonna get smacked.
Somebody is going to do something about it, because it's not right. It's not okay. It's not about, let's baby Logan Paul more and be like, okay, let's take him to a fine little sit down with Dr. Phil, have a little chit chat. We'll discover why his daddy, hated him at a young age, and now he's just trying to live up to all of dad's expectations, and it's in a reverse role because now his dad's trying to live up to his own son. And everybody's a maverick. It's the maverick mentality, and we're gonna name a new psychological issue after the maverick, Maverickism. Like, it's not about that. It's about the fact that if anyone else that isn't Logan Paul did what Logan Paul did off of a camera, they'd get their shit kicked. Can you imagine? It's crazy. But you got away with it because he's in Japan, literally.
All right,
That's enough of that.
I think we all can agree he's a dumbass.
Yep. I want to petition. UrbanDictionary.com. Put his face on the fuckboy. I want his face on the fuckboy page. Because if you can find a better example of fuckboy than Logan Paul, I will eat my own shorts. I don't think it freaking exists.
Go to change.org.
Whether it's his fault or not, put that shit up there on that website, please.
Go to change.org. Put in a petition.
That's it for that segment. We're moving on to movies and TV and stuff. Is there anything that's happened before we talk about Star Wars? Is there anything? I mean, Golden Globes happen, and lots of people wearing black, lots of people trying to make low-key, feminism jokes, and some not so low-key feminism jokes, and all manner
not so low-key feminism comments that weren't even jokes.
No, that was an interesting night. For sure.
Dude, I didn't. I've watched maybe 4 or 5 clips on YouTube just from trending or whatever. Like seeing Oprah Winfrey do her, I don't know, her Obama type introduction. I have to say, and this is gonna sound very insensitive, and don't take offense to it, everybody. I actually don't give a fuck about these women issues in Hollywood, simply because it's like listening to a bunch of really rich, entitled people talk about how bad things are. And I get it. I absolutely get it. No woman should be treated any differently than a man in any way, shape, or form. But the amount of fuckery that has been going on in Hollywood is retarded.
Endless.
It's absolute. I mean, there are women coming out.
Stan Lee getting nailed for it now.
He fucking looked at me for 10 seconds and took a look at my breasts.
Yeah.
And somebody's career is going to the shitter.
Yeah.
And lives are being destroyed. And it's being plastered all over social media. I get it. The fucking creeps, the assholes, the ones that are doing what they shouldn't be doing, they deserve to get fucked. But I mean, it's to the point now where it was like when women were just talking about Kobe's dick, right? Fucking Kobe broke me in half, whatever the case may be. it's getting old. It's like we get it. We've heard it now.
Yeah.
It's almost like the I don't know, the politically correct, the LGBT LG, what is it?
Oh, there's like 17 different things in this list
yeah,
now,
the
so I
ones
don't know
with
where
5
we're
or
at
6
now.
letters, right? Yeah, we've heard it.
LGBTQ.
Yeah, we get it.
There's
yeah,
like
we
2
get
more.
It. You know, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, we get it. We get it, guys. Okay, we got it. We don't need. Maybe this is just how I feel. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else feels this way. But it's the event. It turned into this movement of.
It was like an echo chamber.
Everybody
of itself.
just stroking everybody's dick. Is like, yeah.
No pun intended.
If you even said like something about women and being treated being treated poorly or whatever, they're like, yes, yeah, you're right. Give them a fucking Oscar or whatever they're giving out. You know, yes, you're awesome. And then Oprah comes up and everyone's tearing up, and you know the fucking $50 million actors are sitting there like listening so intently, and it's just
did you see Seal calling out Oprah?
Who?
You want to know?
Seal.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that?
You want to know?
I saw, dude. It's fucking
Oprah.
You
Even
wanna know
Oprah
what-
getting called
yeah.
out.
You want to know what bugged me about the whole thing is they had that whole thing back and forth. Like I kind of agree with Jeff, where they're all stroking each other's egos, but they kind of all missed something. It came out in the news the other day, and I think it was one of the nominees or something. It's like All the Money in the World, the movie with like Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that Kevin Spacey got kicked out because he's a scumbag.
Yeah, and they had to reshoot it. Yeah.
They didn't pay much attention to it until recently, but you know they kind of glossed all over there while they were stroking each other's egos. But apparently, Mark Wahlberg got paid $1.5 million, while Michelle Williams got paid like $1,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's something you want to talk about, not some other like ego stroking bullshit.
Hold on now. Apparently, what came out of that is that Mark Wahlberg's people negotiated, and then she said that she didn't care, and so they didn't bother negotiating. Now, I'm sure if she knew that Marky Mark was getting fucking $1.5 million, then, well, this doesn't matter if she doesn't ask the agent negotiated or whatever. But yeah, obviously, it's also a bit silly, and it looks worse than it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm just like, but that's the thing. Like everyone kind of glossed over that instead of saying, "Can we talk about what happened and get a better understanding of what happened here?" You know, if that's the situation, that's the situation. But it's like everyone's just like,
dude, you know, to Jeff's point, I think when we first started talking about this, when it first started happening, when all this kind of crap started to crop up, and we talked about it, one of the things that we talked about was that there was a danger of too much of it happening, and I don't mean in terms of too many people with legitimate claims coming out, but too many people flooding it with claims that are like on the line, like Jeff said, like, oh, he looked at me for 15 seconds without breaking eye contact, and I felt awkward. Or
he hugged me for 14 seconds, and it was weird, and he should lose his career.
Yeah, like like it's getting a little like we're starting to blur some lines in where it is. But because it's a movement and people love a movement and they'll get behind the movement, then because they want to be part of a team, they want to be part of something that accomplishes it, regardless of what the fuck it is, as long as they're
thoughts and prayers.
They're accomplishing, they feel like they're accomplishing something. It all just kind of steamrolls, and you know, celebrities aren't any different than regular people. They fall victim to the same kind of stuff that everyone else does. And except in their case, they have their own careers on the line. So now we're in this awkward space where people are, on one hand, you know, pointing the finger like, oh, you knew Mr. Harvey Weinstein real well. You knew what was going on and you didn't do anything about it. And like, all the while, they themselves also likely in the same scenario that they're pointing their finger at somebody else over.
They all knew.
They all knew, right?
They all knew, all of them.
And so
it was the worst kept secret in Hollywood.
Yeah, and so it was, you know, it is becoming a bit much. And the problem here is that for those women with legitimate claims, it's now going to make people get annoyed when they hear about them, even if they're legitimate. So that's become the biggest issue for me with this, is that I don't necessarily want the movement to go away. I just want it to have an actual fucking purpose and not just everyone come out and be part of it and feel, you know, validated.
Becomes a witch hunt eventually.
Yeah, it gets to be a bit silly.
It's awkward.
Yeah.
The whole thing is awkward. Like, people go up there and they have these prep speeches, and they go there and all the women are screaming and the men are just, they have no choice but to clap and say, yes, I'm totally on board with this. And some of them legitimately are. And then there's some that's just awkward. And if they're not smiling and doing that, they know there's going to be a headline of them not smiling. And, you know, it's very forced, and it should be if it's a legitimate issue. But there comes a time where it's overshadowing everything. And it's becoming just like another norm, and I think it's going to desensitize people from the actual problem at hand. Maybe I'm looking at it differently, and I'm not in that circle. So,
no.
And to the people that have dealt with this, I'm sure that it has consumed their life, and it is absolutely the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And
don't want to diminish their experience.
No.
Oh, by no means.
No.
You know, everybody, I mean, fuck, you know, somebody could lose their job.
Yeah.
And it can consume their whole life and ruin, in their eyes, everything that they have, and so on and so forth. So I'm not about to say, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, or, oh, it's not important. It's just, it comes off like a show. It comes off like it's almost like these guys are going up there to try and to be like a Logan Paul, where they're going up and they're saying, yeah, what I'm about to say is really going to make a difference, and they're going to clap for me, and they're going to write a nice article about me, and it's you know, I'm you know, and
I'm going to use it to launch my career further.
But seriously, that's almost what it feels like. It's like they're looking for validation. It's, if you're a good, decent person, we know you feel this way. We know you're influential. But do you have to do it on a platform after 10 other people just did it as well? Do you need to get in your 2 cents too? Can't you just go on Twitter like the rest of the world and say this shit has got to stop? Or do you got to, you know, do you have to stand up there in front of the world every time you can and just say the same regurgitated stuff that the last person before you did?
Twitter's the same way. Everyone just like gets into that whole signaling, and you start virtue signaling.
Well, it's just
and,
social
everyone
media.
Jumps on it.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. It's just bleeding into everywhere
So
else.
interestingly enough, apparently there were 100. I guess, I don't know if they're all this way, but it seemed like that might have been the case. 100 affluent women in France came out saying kind of what Jeff is saying here, and what we're saying as well, where it's too much now. Like, it's getting to the point where if a guy looks at you the wrong way, then all of a sudden it's a problem. Or if they're flirting or something, then all of a sudden, you know, oh, you flirted with me while I was at the coffee shop, and I didn't want you to flirt with me, so now that's a problem. Like, it's good, and their argument,
and you're attractive.
It's like, well, their argument is, or what they're saying is, and it's kind of true, is that, you know, at what point, where's the line now where men can feel, and women, because it's not just like Terry Crews was involved in this whole thing as well. So you can't forget that there are men that have experienced this, obviously not likely in the same degree as women, but it's still there. But it's getting to the point where men and women both, but in this instance, more often men. When do we know what we're doing is
inappropriate?
Is inappropriate. Like, do we have to be in a bar during a night that's specifically listed as people can hit on you night, never to like come on in and like it's gonna, or you can only use Tinder because you know if you're on Tinder then you want to have attention. Like where's the
you think
the
about
line?
It in a regular job, and I think probably most people listening to this podcast, especially if you work at like a restaurant or you're a student or whatever. I mean, anywhere. I mean, fuck, you could work at a call center, and there's a lot of sexual tension in a work environment. There's people, they see each other every day. It's part of your circle. There's constantly jokes. There's flirting. There's borderline sexual harassment, but it's almost accepted. Everybody just kind of does it, and it's just part of the norm. You see these people all day. Nobody ever comes out and says, "The fuck are you doing?" Like, don't put your hand over my shoulder and ask me how I'm doing today or whatever. And in Hollywood, I'm sure it's the same thing, except that now you're dealing with egos. You're dealing with people of actual power. And so it's no different than a regular job, except that now there's millions of dollars on the line and there's careers on the line, and people are afraid to say anything because if they do, they could be blacklisted. And when you're blacklisted, that's the show. It's over. I mean, it's in a regular job, you can just go get another job somewhere. In Hollywood, you're done.
You're done for.
There is no
You don't even get to be Nicolas Cage.
No, you don't even get a Nicolas Cage treatment. You're just done. You're blacklisted. It's over. So, you know, listen, I'm sure on movie sets people are in character. They're you know, I don't know. I'm only speculating, but it's normal. This is what happens in everyday jobs. I used to work a regular job myself, and the amount of fucking sexual tension and all this other stuff. I mean, Jesus.
It's in every workplace, and it's not always the guys doing it. So
no, it's not.
But
it is what it is. But I think guys are like, if a girl hits on you or says like, hey, can I get some dick tonight? Guys aren't gonna be like, oh, I'm going to the boss with this.
Yeah.
You getting rid up.
Very rarely.
Harassment?
I mean, you can. I mean, it's fair. That's fair.
You'll probably get laughed at.
Yeah, but
and then the boss, your boss, would be like, dude, she's a fucking dime piece. What are you like? The fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? Are you sure you want to go down this route?
Which is a different problem altogether in that case. But yeah, it's it is, and I think the Golden Globes, we've now peaked. We've hit the point where people are like, all right, well, that was enough of that now.
Yeah, definitely.
Can we maybe stop that? Because it's getting to be a bit much. Like who was it? It was Natalie Portman said, like dropped some weird line about how none of the
it wasn't even weird. She literally she came out straight out and said it how it was.
Yeah, the directors.
She's like for best directors, here are the all male nominees.
Yeah.
And then every single dude that got announced was like they didn't smile.
They didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do because
she
once
dropped
again,
it. She dropped the bomb. Yeah.
It's just such a weird fucking place. Like, you know what? Hey, women, why don't you make great movies? Why don't you do that?
Don't want to. That's
because if you've made the quality, if you're gonna throw up Christopher Nolan in there, name me a woman director that deserves to be up against Christopher Nolan or Steven Spielberg or whoever the hell was up there, because there's not a whole lot of great female directors out there, and the good ones that are out there are not worthy of any type of prestigious award. If anything, it would be a donation because they're female and they actually made a competent film and one that wasn't dumpstered by critics. You go out there and create something special and then get rewarded for it. Don't make a sly-ass comment that, oh, here are all the male directors. Well, name me four female directors.
I think that's part of the problem is that most of the director opportunities go to the men. Again, I'm not talking about the merit or the dismerit to that. I think that's part of the reason why there just aren't as many female directors, which means less opportunities to win. I'm not saying go out and necessarily do it.
I mean,
I think it's part of the field. It's the problem in the field right now.
I would say the same. I think it's disproportionately male because the whole industry is male, and the people in power are male, and so it makes it harder. Not impossible, makes it way harder for a female to come up and say, "All right, I'm going to be directing this." And then go out and do it. I mean, I think it's pretty indicative of how the whole situation is when the director who did Wonder Woman got lauded so much for doing the job that she did with that film, and in the grand scheme of things, it was a big deal that whether or not she'd come back to do it again or if they'd hand it off to somebody else, It is difficult. It's difficult for an actress. I can't even imagine what it would be like for a woman, no matter how skilled they may be, to convince the right people that they are the person for the job to direct a film that would be considered for nomination in these award ceremonies. Like it's probably an absolute minefield.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But to come out in the middle of the awards when these guys put their body of work out there, and then you're
misfiring. She's shooting the wrong people.
You're shooting at the wrong people.
Yeah.
Like, go to Twitter again, voice your concerns. You don't do it on stage just as the camera is about to hit on all these directors that obviously worked hard. We get it. you're a female, you got a vagina, you're upset that women are not being represented in there, but you know, you didn't see somebody black going up during the Oscars and saying, "Hey, and here are all your white nominees for best director."
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine,
how
right?
amazing that would have been?
Can you imagine the fucking backlash?
That might actually happen.
That's some Kanye West shit,
That
right?
is,
George Bush doesn't care
doesn't-
about black people type shit.
People were just like,
But-
oh shit.
But it's the same thing. Like, you got a woman up there it's so fucking, they're so entitled and just, it hurts.
I think she's just really super pissed off and she's firing at the wrong people. Like, she used the platform and she probably could have worded that a hell of a lot better. Like, in her mind, I don't think she's blaming the guys in the crowd, but that ends up what's happening, right? Like, it ends up sounding like she's pointing the finger at all the guys that are nominees and not necessarily the guys who are hiring the guys that are nominees.
When are the Hispanics and the Asians going to come out and say, like, where's our shit? Like, when's that movement going to happen?
We already do. No one cares about what we have to say.
You got Bollywood, all right? You got Bollywood.
Yeah,
we got our own shit.
Yeah, you got Bollywood where physics don't exist and everything is awesome.
And
Hey man, our action movies are phenomenal.
They're so good. Anytime you can see somebody stop a flipping car with their foot and like do some crazy backflip, Bollywood movies are insane. There's one of my favorite clips on the internet is of a random Bollywood movie where just a room full of bodybuilders and they're all just like flexing their pecs back and forth until a big fucking fight happens. And there's dudes swinging around like rebar with 50,000-pound piece of concrete at the end. It's crazy. There's a bunch of dudes in banana hammocks, just jacked up, greased up, fucking. I don't know what happens in Bollywood, but it's hilarious. I love it. Where's the Bollywood movie of the year in Hollywood? That's what we need. We need a new category. Bring it over.
That's gonna
Please
be the
and
next
thank
movement.
Bollywood of the year.
Bollywood to Hollywood. From Bollywood to Hollywood.
Yeah.
They say that all the time already.
Oh, that sounds like an
There you go.
Access Hollywood like teaser trailer. From Bollywood to Hollywood. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing, though. Hollywood wants the loyalty that Bollywood has. Like, Bollywood doesn't care if their stuff does well outside of the country. But,
Yeah,
like,
no wonder,
Hollywood's like,
because they've got,
we
like,
want
half the
everyone to
population
come into
of the
our
planet."
movies, like in Bollywood. Like, the Bollywood movie rates are, like, ridiculous. They put out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of
yeah.
movies a year, and they get, everyone watches all of them. Like, Hollywood's like, how do we get people to do that here?
Holy shit. It's so good. It's amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here is your warning. Warning, warning, warning. Here lie spoilers.
To Star Trek, right?
For those, yes, for Star Trek. For those of you, for those of you who, like me, don't immediately go out and see every movie within the first 5 days of its release, this has been your warning. We are about to, as a group, discuss Star Wars, Episode 8. And so if you don't want to hear about it, now is a really good time to pause, come back later when you've seen it, do whatever you need to do. Panic's grabbing one of his 5 dildo-shaped lightsabers at the other side of the room. He's getting in character. It's time. Ladies and gentlemen. Jeff, can I get a little jingle? A little jingle for Star Wars? That wasn't a jingle, that was hype. Now I'm excited.
Gotta get a little bit of hype going.
Duel of the Fates? Like, what are you gonna do? But then I get sad because I remember Liam Neeson was taken from us way too soon.
Oh, so much pun in just one sentence.
Just one.
Taken.
Oh, look at that. Look at that shiny lightsaber. So many on the wall to choose from. So, ladies, here we are. I finally saw it, and we can discuss it. I don't know how we want to go about this. I won't start. I'll let somebody else start. There's been a lot said about this movie. It's a pretty divisive Star Wars movie, for a number of reasons. Critics like the game.
Jump into it. Like, can the three of us just give like our 10-second I was in favor, not in favor before we all jump into it? Just so, like, each of us say
just our general feeling without talking.
Yeah, just like thumbs up,
specifics.
sideways down, and then we'll go into the specifics.
Okay. From an entertainment perspective, thumbs up. From a I guess I'd call it script perspective, or like how they handled plot points and stuff in the film, I'm giving a sideways, and it's airing towards the down. It's flipping. It's like you got an old car and your gaskets. You don't actually know how much is in it because the shit doesn't stop moving. That's where I'm at on that one. So for entertainment purposes, absolutely, I think it's going to be one of those things that sells TVs because there are a couple of scenes that are amazing in the movie for sure, and one of the most. It almost didn't feel like Star Wars. I was like, am I watching like some other sci-fi movie right now? Because it didn't feel like it, and we'll probably get to that these scenes anyway. But from the perspective of the script stuff, I was about it. So that's me. Overall, I did enjoy it though.
From my side, entertainment wise, I was fine with the movie. From the like some parts of the movie, I felt were completely unnecessary. Actually, about most of the story arcs in the movie, I really didn't care for, except for the Rey, Kylo, and Luke part. That part to me was entirely what I was expecting, and I like based on everything that's been happening. We can talk about that later. I like that storyline. A lot of the other stuff, I kind of just felt like they were killing time. But overall, this one kind of fell into what I feel happens in a lot of trilogies, where the middle one is kind of like, you're not there yet, and you have to cover a lot of ground, so you just try to do what you need to do. So, honestly, I think maybe like 7 out of 10 on just overall. But the Jedi part of it, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10.
I liked episode 7 more.
I can see that.
So did I. I thought I was going to like 8 more, but I didn't.
I thought about this movie a lot, and the first thing that when the credits rolled and I was walking out of the IMAX, the only thing I was thinking was I was disappointed. I felt like I waited 2 years to be unfulfilled. And I'm not saying it was a bad movie by any means. I mean, you got to put Star Wars at another level, especially after the prequels, and then 7 hits and 7 doesn't suck, and it gets you excited about the franchise again. And then we get Rogue One, which I really, really liked. And then episode 8 comes. We know we're getting a lot of Luke. We're going to get a lot of answers. I obviously know that it's the middle movie, so things are going to be incomplete, and I'm sure I'll like the movie more when I watch episode 9. But ultimately, I left the movie almost forgetting about the awesome, simply because the not awesome was really not awesome.
There was just a lot of it.
Yeah, and it was. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, I am struggling to get it to 7.
I'm giving it a 6 personally.
I would be high. I'd be high 6. I think if I see it one more time, I could definitely get it to 7, knowing some of the stuff and then kind of enjoying it for what it is.
Walking out of the theater, I would agree with you. I was at a 6, but I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this because that's what I do with these type of movies. Like, I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
And after sitting and thinking about it, I bumped it up to a 7 in my head because I'm like, okay, you know what? That actually makes sense, and I was cool with it, so it bumped up. I'm like, it wasn't as like ridiculous as I thought it was.
Yeah,
as I was walking out.
I'm kind of with you there. Like, you know what? If somebody was like had a gun to my head and said, "Give it a 7 now," I'd be like, "Yeah, okay, I can give it a 7." It deserves a 7.
It's not the hill to die on.
And I'm using sort of my fandom to really rate this because I have a personal bias when it comes to Star Wars, and I have a certain level of expectation. So yeah, overall, I left feeling disappointed or let down. But I had a good time. Like, there was plenty of times where I was laughing and I was enjoying it, and it was Star Wars, and it felt very Star Wars-y. And there were some really, really powerful scenes. And at times, I forgot that I didn't like parts of the movie where I was like, man, this is fucking, awesome. And then when it wasn't awesome, it was like brutal. The whole casino bit All
way
that whole thing.
Oh yeah, the way we'll talk about some specific because this is so easy to break down into like plot moments that we can do that. The way that I saw this movie, Episode 7 was a Star Wars movie with Disney flavor. Episode 8 was a Disney movie starring Star Wars.
Yeah, so for me, the entire scene with the Rebel fleet escaping, that probably wasn't necessary for me mentally. It was cool to watch, but that was about not even the coolest times. It was just kind of dragging and filler. The entire casino scene, I'm like, okay, no, don't really need that.
Oh, that felt like some shit right out of the prequels, man.
I could have gone for a full 2 hours of just Luke, Rey, and Kylo doing their shit. I would have been fine with that.
In the middle of that shit, when they were actually, I think they were like releasing those
that
thing
fight around Snoke was incredible.
Would be horses.
Yeah, those horses.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking to myself, like, I don't need any of this. Like, I just want to get back to the action, and it slowed down the whole movie. Their whole story arc there was pointless, and it ended up being pointless.
They only did it for service for Finn, but they could have done that other ways.
Oh, it was so bad, dude.
And they managed to squeak in like some fucking animal rights shit at some point
too.
Like that was weird.
And when they said
Chewie was right, and he should have eaten that friggin' porg.
when they released that fucking horse thing out to the or when they got all out there, and then Finn was like, it was all worth it, and then the girl was like, and then she lets the fucking thing go, and she goes, no, now it's worth it.
And I just, my inside, I was like, no.
I said that. Dude,
it's like George Lucas level writing.
Dude. I was mad. I couldn't believe it.
And it was really sad too, because Finn is such an awesome character, and Johnny does an amazing job of playing this character, and he's got so much charisma. When he's on screen and he does his bit, like, he commands the whole fucking scene. Like, he's just got so much, he oozes charisma. And then they take that and they're like, all right, guys, we need some way to build up Finn a bit in this movie. Let's send him to a fucking casino. There's going to be like a 20-minute slapstick comedy bit with a bunch of shit just going everywhere, but the music's playing in the background. There's an opera singing alien, and it's just like, I just why? And then so I was angry.
I feel like they're setting up for later stuff.
I was kind of upset about it. Oh, and then it was also some social commentary. So it was a bit of PETA, and then it was a bit of, oh, by the way, America supplies all the weapons for all the people that we hate in the world. Shocker! And you got Benicio del Toro, whatever, sitting on the ship going, oh, look at this. You think they only supply the bad guys? Boom! They supply the good guys too. Fuck America.
You only think they supply the bad guys?
To be fair to him, he probably took the writing of that and took it as far as he could possibly take that character in the time that he
and then
had.
It did nothing. And the whole Phasma thing was like fucking 10 seconds.
That was the saddest part.
The whole thing.
She's not dead.
And somebody, no, of course not.
No,
and somebody
no.
in the chat talked about Akbar.
Oh my God, that scene.
He should have. I'm with Quest.
He should have been the one.
He should have been the one that took the ship and fucking and hyper.
That was a good
scene.
That was an awesome scene.
Oh,
yes,
fuck! Yes, the guy that you've been with ever since the beginning of Star Wars.
It's a trap.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know what? Fuck it.
Let's just
go then.
That would have been the one-liner to end it. If he said that while he did it, it's a trap.
It's a trap. And then cut to the guy on the ship realizing what he's about to do. I would have stood, as cheesy as that was, I would have stood up and just get him.
You want to know what would have been even better?
Get him.
No, nothing's better than that.
No. If the guy on the ship that was about to get fucked said it's a trap.
Oh. Oh my God. But okay, but can we talk about that?
That would have been better.
Can we talk about that whole segment? So in that scene, we get a character in this movie.
I did not think of that.
The thumbnail needs to be Akbar saying it's a trap.
How did they not do
Logan
that?
Paul.
I think they should refilm that whole fucking bit and let him do it, because that would have just been such an awesome send off. It would have been
exactly.
It would have been emotional. It would have been like
instead of and think about how much throwbacks they made in this movie.
Introduced a random character.
So that's what I was about to get to. So instead of getting a character that's been around for like 40 freaking years that everyone knows and loves and considers to be a relatively important, despite background character in this entire franchise. instead of giving that
Huge fandom.
to Akbar, we give it to this random character chick
I
that
hated
didn't
her.
exist in any movie previously, that we built up an entire character and took her down in the span of like 45 minutes to give her one of the coolest looking scenes in the entire movie. Because let's be fair, when that
Entire franchise.
well, yeah, the entire franchise, yeah, when that ship cut through the other ship and it was
Oh, it was
silent, out in
Everyone was
space,
just like,
I was like, oh my god, this is the best scene Star Wars has ever done. And then I came back down to Earth and I went, wait a minute,
This bitch did it.
I was
they
on that
gave
ship.
that to her instead of like who just gets wiped out in a scene.
That's
Let's
so
talk
bad.
about that scene.
That should have been the Leia send off.
Let's talk
If it
about
wasn't Akbar.
Let's talk
should have
about
been the
that
Leia
scene.
send-off.
Let's talk about that scene. Talk about Leia here for a moment, who
God.
apparently the meme on the internet is
Poor
she's
Scott.
Mary Poppins, just coming back down with her umbrella,
Mary Poppins,
floating back down in her force bubble. Okay, look. Obviously, Leia going out like that would have been shit. Okay, so I'm not hating the fact that Leia survived that, but was that really a necessary thing to do? Because all it does is it raises more questions than it needs to, and not good questions, not questions where you sit back and you give it a good long think, like at the end of Inception, like, did his thing fall over on the table? No, it's when the fuck did Leia become a god? Like, when the fuck did somebody who just got blown out of a ship by massive energy beams floating in space, her body is freezing, let alone the fact that we're going to ignore every fucking piece of physics that ever fucking existed, and then she just shields herself in some force bubble and Mary Poppins her ass back from space onto the ship to get dragged in. What?
It was weird. It was weird. It was very weird, and it felt like, I don't know if he was going for it. It really felt like that would be something we would have seen back in Star Wars, the original trilogy. Like, it felt like something cheesy like that, where she's just kind of floating in space and it looks awkward, and you're going, but hey, it's Star Wars. But now with all how much technology they have and how cool they can CGI and how cool they could have thought of something different, it just felt out of place. It felt weird.
Well,
I didn't like it.
It kind of contradicts what they did at the end of which was in the original trilogy when they're with the Ewoks and shit, and Leia finds out about Luke and Leia are doing their talk, and in canon Leia turns down being taught by Luke
She
anything.
does
and she's
eventually take, though. Later.
not in the canon.
In the original canon before Disney took over, she actually did take training eventually. Not like,
Well, okay. Well, in this timeline, that didn't happen. What she did is she turned it down, and then she gave Luke her son to get trained, which is now where we're at with Kylo, right? So apparently, we're talking about a woman who apparently just barely knows that she has any kind of connection with the Force, if only because she's the sister of Luke. And before this, the best that she's really had was like some vague mental, like kind of telepathy type shit with Luke, and then all of a sudden, now fast forwarding,
Skywalker, though.
she's just all of a sudden force bubble. I mean, here we go, and that's neato.
It is what it is. Let's
It
not
wasn't
continue
my-
talk
yeah,
about this. It was
no,
dumb.
it
It was
was
out
dumb.
of place. It looked weird.
It wasn't the one.
I
It
think we
wasn't
all
the
can
thing that
agree with that.
bothered me the most about the force powers, because they did a lot of crazy shit with force powers in this movie. Was I the only one that felt a little weird about Kylo and Rey apparently just seeing each other all the time, and the way they cut it with like. I just felt weird. Like everyone else in the history of the movies just heard each other in their head. Now these two are sitting here apparently live in living color,
So there's a couple
talking
of
to
things
each other.
about that. So one of the big things, again, like the whole thing about Star Wars has been about the Skywalker prophecy and bringing balance to the Force. And I think we talked about this a while ago, but one of the big things was in the Old Republic and in all the older lore segments, you had tons of Jedi and tons of Sith, but they all weren't very strong. But then as the numbers dwindled down, the users themselves individually got a lot stronger. Now we're at the point where there's like no Sith and no Jedi. Oh, you have like one or two of each, not really. and then you've got Kylo and Rey. They haven't they're neither, like, Kylo's more trained, but they're neither. Kylo's got good in him, but he's evil. Rey's got good in her, but they allude to it in the movie that she was willing to go towards the dark side of meditation. So they're kind of in the middle, and then you've got Luke and Snoke holding off the other sides.
Did we need to have the seawater hit Kylo?
Well, yeah, because that was part of
That's Snoke's influence of bringing them together.
But they also showed that part made sense to me because we also saw Luke at the end of the movie where he had basically did a reflection of himself or
he was force projecting himself,
and he gave the dice to Leia, like in physical form. So and so that made sense that you can become so powerful that you can actually move things from one place to another, or
even
be
freaking
there.
Yoda being dead, blowing the tree up, huge deal.
Yeah, exactly. So same sort of deal. So it does go to show that you can do those things. I thought that whole end part was pretty awesome. I didn't like the whole brushing off the shoulder thing.
That was
I thought
a bit
that
much.
was very. I laughed. I chuckled for sure. And
felt a bit of the place.
In the moment, I was like, oh shit. I was happy about it. And then when I thought about it at the end, I was like, that was really not Star Warsy at all. That was very.
That was very Mark Hamill.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And so that was fine. But I did like the whole the reflection thing or the mirror of himself. I like the fact that he was a younger version of himself. He showed
He was the one that when he fought Kylo.
The one that he when him and Kylo when the whole thing happened. I like the fact that he had his old lightsaber. I like the fact when he was walking the salt, the red salt never made footprints.
that was a cool giveaway there.
That was very well done. And when all the ships and things were shooting at him, obviously he wasn't hit because he wasn't there. And the fact that they never touched lightsabers, he dodged everything.
Yeah.
And they never actually touched, because if they did, he would have noticed that it was
It's
all
a projection.
At the end, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Jedi trick, right? So I thought that was great, and I think that played well with what Kylo and Rey were doing with each other, being able to be in places at the same time, and the fact that they aren't as trained as Luke. Luke has been sitting on an island for however long, and so he's obviously been training.
I don't want to cut you off, but Luke, when he went to the island, he cut himself off from the Force, and he missed the whole point of the Jedi teachings that were on the island, because that was like old original Jedi. And if you actually looked at a lot of the details in the book, they showed some stuff, but that like the little mosaic thing that they had, that Luke was like meditating over, it was actually pretty much the Star Wars equivalent of the yin yang, where you have the person meditating in the middle with equal parts light and dark. And it's effectively like it was alluding to like the gray, which is like a thing in Star Wars lore where it's someone who's pretty much, they don't care which side of the it's just the
they
Force.
Can use both sides of
the
Force.
It's
good
the
and
Force.
Evil.
It's not good or evil.
Force.
It's what you make of it.
It's
so
the
like
gray.
It's the whole balance. Yeah. So, and that's like where it's going with Rey and
Kylo and Rey are both kind of gray Jedis.
So
they're not Jedis, but they're
I suspect
gray.
What's going to happen in the third movie, and this is entirely conjecture on my part, is that Kylo is going to pull Rey towards the dark side, and Rey's going to pull Kylo to that, and they're going to end up in the middle, and that's going to be the end of the trilogy there, where it's Force is balanced. They understand the Force, because you look at it, Snoke didn't get it at the end. He was still dark side full and full. Luke still was like, I was wrong, I screwed up, but light side is still the way type of thing. Because you saw when he was talking to Rey, he's just like, dark. You need to stay away from the dark side. You like all of this stuff, and he still didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah. And anybody can use the Force too, because you saw the kid at the end use the Force to grab the broom or whatever it is that he grabbed. And then even Rey talked about it in an interview where she said, the Force isn't necessarily something that Jedi use.
It's a tool.
It's just an energy. Anybody can use the Force. So I think we're starting to go in that direction. Also, I'm going to make a bold prediction that Snoke is not dead. I believe fully that Snoke did what
He might be a
Luke
projection.
did,
Yeah.
and he projected himself to be there. Nobody ever touched. Nobody. He never really moved.
There's a few things that I agree with you
and
on
also in episode 7, he looked very different. And this one, he looked a little bit younger, a little bit more of himself, maybe because he's getting more powerful. And I think he's just projecting himself. And I think in the next one, we're gonna find out. I mean, he just died
So-
too soon. I fully
There's
believe
a lot of
he's
little
not dead.
details that actually support that. So one thing was his ring was actually a crystal from Darth Vader's fortress. This was in like the actual
Mhm.
Disney released lore books for the movie. And the other big thing is in Battlefront 2 and other lore that Disney has released for Star Wars, Luke was in position. You know that compass clock thing that he showed in the movie?
Mhm.
That's actually something from Revan, who's an old Republic. He was a Jedi and a Sith. He went back and forth between the sides of the Force. He went off into the undiscovered part of the galaxy where Snoke is actually supposedly from, and Revan was never heard from again. And a lot of stuff happened over there, including like Snoke being like the predecessor, like Snoke influencing Palpatine and all of that stuff. So Snoke is really, really powerful. So entirely possible that he was projecting himself very similar to Luke, just from whatever his plans are. The other big thing that I think a lot of people miss, I actually missed it the first time until my friend told it to me, and I went to watch Star Wars again. When Yoda blows up the tree, the Jedi teachings are actually not in the tree. Rey had stolen them and she's actually holding them when they're on the ship at the end.
Hmm.
So
I didn't
she's
see
got
it.
that
I
she
didn't
has the
notice that.
teachings. So that thing that she was like talking about while Finn was doing his thing with whatever the Asian chick was,
Yeah.
Rey actually was holding Jedi teachings.
There you go. Yeah, no, I have to watch it again because I only
Yeah.
watched it once. So, there's plenty that I liked. There's plenty that I didn't like. I thought the whole scene where they were fighting all of his knights or whatever you want to call them. I know they have a
There's
specific
Royal
name.
Guard or whatever they're called.
I thought that was a pretty awesome scene. It was pretty
Yeah.
brutal. It was very rough and untrained. It felt like you were watching people that wasn't their first time in battle, but it most certainly didn't.
They hadn't
didn't have all
found
the
they were
experience.
comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're getting beat up a little bit. It was very rough. It was. I thought that was a great scene. I was upset we didn't get any lightsaber on lightsaber action except for the scene with Luke and Kylo and the whole dream, or not, like when we got to see the past. Where, they kind of touched lightsabers, and that's depending on whose perspective you were seeing it under. So that was a bit disappointing, but at the same time, I throughout the movie I wasn't going, "Where's my lightsaber battle?" So they did do a good job at that, where I didn't
That
really.
Praetorian Guard scene was just epic.
Yeah, it was
I was like,
great.
I didn't need a lightsaber fight scene with that.
It was great. That was great. So there definitely was. I think if they would have got rid of the whole casino thing, they would have cut out a few other parts that really slow down, because it felt long. It felt like a long movie, and that's not. When you get 2 hours and 45 minutes of Star Wars, usually pumped. I wasn't pumped about my 2 hours 45 minutes.
Part of the reason they did this, and this is not lore. This is, I think, mentally entirely practical reasons why Disney did this movie the way they did. Is you've got a metric fuck ton of Star Wars fanboys, people like me and people like who are like super invested in characters and people and places that are already in Star Wars, that are established in known quantities, right? It's really hard to make an entire universe of movies when people have a ton of expectation.
Yeah.
So like with what they've been doing, with how they're kind of like killing off a lot of the bigger characters and like introducing other things, which is why I think we had things like the casino and the Benicio del Toro character, where they're kind of opening up avenues of saying, yeah, well, look, you have all these people who are actually supplying both sides. That's an entire arc they can do. But then at the same time, they're killing off Luke. They're moving Leia off to the side. They're putting all these other things. They kind of brought the resistance down low to where it's almost nothing. And, the First Order is kind of in chaos now. And, all this other stuff. And, they're slowly getting rid of a lot of the, the way you're looking at it, they're getting rid of a lot of the old holdovers from Star Wars as they're introducing the new stuff at the same time. So kind of like, instead of just like doing a whole new thing, they're kind of like trying to get people to like not realize that all this stuff's kind of going, so that after this trilogy ends, Disney kind of has a clean slate to do a lot of stuff. without necessarily having to say Old Republic or later on.
One last thing that I thought was just weird as hell was the Rey kiss or the Finn kiss.
That I was gonna say,
That
I
was
was waiting
forced.
for you guys.
That
I was waiting
shit-
for you guys to finish talking so I could say I know we talked about Finn,
That
but
shit
how did
was-
you guys feel about that fucking
I
like
thought the
romance?
Scene was cool. I thought the scene was cool, but that romance thing felt so forced, and it just felt, oh my god, it was. I was like, are they gonna fucking kill this motherfucker? Like, I thought he was going down.
I
And
love
then-
Finn, but I feel like they should have just taken him down that way because it would have been unexpected. It would have been like this guy like,
I don't
and it
necessarily
would've had
do
an
that.
impact.
I would have been okay with it, but
That
but
kiss.
the kiss was so awkward and forced.
Yeah.
The whole relationship that they had was awkward and forced because it happened in the span of like 45 minutes. Right? We got the casino. We like their entire relationship started like on board before going to the casino. What happened at the casino, and then right there, and that was it. She went from fangirl who was losing her mind over the fact she was talking to like a rebel hero,
Thirsty.
and then all of a sudden now she's in love with the guy. Yeah,
Thirst.
just it was a bit silly. It was a bit silly, and there I think my bigger, I think the gripe I just had in general was, and I think it's just because I'm a cynical asshole. I'm just a cunt. Is that there were just too many bad pun, but forced jokes in this movie. Like one of the first things we see in this movie is Luke sassy throw the lightsaber over his shoulder as soon as it's handed to him, and I get that would be kind of funny and shit, but I was just
I
like,
didn't like it.
it didn't feel good at all. It felt weird. Like, think about this. That's like whose lightsaber that is, and all this time and everything, and it gets to his hands, and he just goes, "Fuck it," just fucking throws
I
it.
think that was
There's
very-
a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight with that lightsaber, man.
And to
That
just-
thing-
And I think that's
fucking
the
throw
point.
it?
Him throwing it is the point that
That's
there's so
dumb.
much weight
No,
being.
Yeah,
I-
but
I
you know
don't think-
what?
no.
No, not like
From a
that.
movie- from
You
a
know, you
movie
wanna throw
perspective-
it- you want to throw it, fucking throw it
You
with
had- okay,
conviction. Don't go
Don't
and like make
limp
a
wrist the shit over your shoulder.
the way he did it was very like it was a joke. It was like the end of episode
Well, if you think
7,
about the
she
way he went
presents
for it,
the
yeah.
lightsaber to him. There was epic music.
Oh, it's so epic.
From a movie payoff, I completely understand
and
that
the fucking
friggin'
hood
sucks.
comes down and is super serious, and then finally the movie opens up right where it ended. He takes the lightsaber and just chucks it, and it's complete comedic chuck. It isn't like get the fuck out of here, or
No,
like,
it's straight
you know,
comedy.
it isn't like I don't want to see this. Get out of here. It was
I would have just
an
dropped
absolute
it and moved
joke.
away as
It
opposed to
was
throw
a
it.
joke. I didn't like it.
It was set
at
for a
all.
joke, and if it was supposed to be, if it was not a joke and it was supposed to be representative of him having moved on from all that, not wanting to think about it, you had 2 hours and 45 minutes. If you're gonna trade Casino for him being a little bit more elaborate about why he's not happy about seeing that fucking lightsaber all
That's
that
what I would have
time,
wanted to see more.
that'd be terrible.
Oh, hell yeah.
And
And
then
watched the whole movie of them on that island. I wouldn't have cared.
And then we got like the Rey fucking the whole island up and the random race of caretakers that, fuck it, this island has
And the titty
caretakers.
milk,
And the
the
titty
weird titty
milk,
milk
like the
and stuff.
green blue titty milk
Yeah,
thing.
it's like
and
we need props. Let's get practical going here. Let's get these
just-
big titty milk. This is how he drinks.
just so much random shit and then the Luke saying, what did you think I was gonna do, go take on the entire the whole thing by myself? And then ironically, that's exactly what fucking happens. He goes outside and Kylo rains down death from above with everything they have. This is too much punny, really stupid whatever. And
But there's some awesome sprinkled all throughout the movie, and the whole Yoda scene was amazing.
The Yoda
love
scene
that.
was
I
great.
Dialed
Puppet
in, man. I was
fucking
dialed
Yoda.
in.
Puppet
Yeah.
Yoda came back, and he was sassy the way old Yoda was, and it wasn't the weird CGI badass. You still know. You look at Yoda, and you're like, I don't even need to ask. You can kill everything. I don't need you to pretend to be a badass. And then he brings back that old sassy shit, and it was perfect. They did a fantastic job of it. And I like that scene too. I was dialed in too. I was just like, as soon as I saw Yoda show up, I was like, oh, Yoda. Just give me some more of that Yoda. You know what? One thing I'm surprised about, or a couple of things, is for all of the throwbacks that they had in this movie, and they did some visual cues, some like all sorts of stuff that did, you know, throwbacks to the old movies, and various things that happen. We see that Luke has his X-wing sunk to the, like, not to the bottom, but visible. I was fucking positive we were going to see somebody pull that bitch out the water.
Yeah.
And it never happened.
Yeah, I thought she was going to do it, just like how he did with Yoda.
Then I thought, you know, that Luke was going to fly that X-Wing in during that battle when everything's going to shit and then show up in an X-Wing, and then that didn't happen.
That's why they showed it, and kind of keeps that surprise that he wasn't actually there until he actually revealed it.
Yeah, but I mean, there were so many cues to show he's not there, but it is what it is. I was more disappointed that it didn't get pulled out of the water in the first place.
He was using the door as his fucking door in the house.
Yeah, like yeah. So I was a little bit whatever on that, and what else was it? Crap, I had a train of thought and I derailed myself. But yeah, I think
it was. I think we can all agree that it wasn't a bad film by any means. It was just it felt incomplete, and I think it's mainly because
it's a pretty decent
it's
Star
#2.
Wars movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it's better than
1, 2, and 3.
Prequels. Oh hell yeah. I mean, way better than the prequels. And I don't. It's.
I'd hold it on
too.
par with maybe a little bit less than Rogue One, because I actually really like Rogue One.
Yeah. I'm probably still gonna give Episode 8 a little bit over Rogue One, simply because I felt like I got more of a Star Wars movie in in Episode 8. Rogue One was just a really great standalone film that felt gritty, and I'm happy we don't get a Rogue One it wasn't theatrical enough. It didn't feel as grand, and that's the whole point. And trust me, I'm all for it. And they did have a big grand battle towards the end, which was awesome, and it lasted like 30 minutes. But I mean, there's something about the score in Star Wars, the big names, the everything that just felt so. I would. The story most certainly felt better in Rogue One. It felt the writing and everything just felt better.
There was less wastage in Rogue One. There was so much that you could cut from Episode 8, and the movie would have played out exactly the fucking same. Like nothing would have changed.
The thing is with Rogue One, as I felt the first half and the second half felt like two different movies, and I'm okay with that. And you know, the Darth Vader scene was, in my opinion, my favorite scene ever in Star Wars ever. But the Episode 8 just felt like Star Wars the whole way through, even the casino, but it just felt like shitty Star Wars. That felt like, you know, shitty prequel Star Wars. So, yeah, I have to watch it again. I only watched it once. I have to watch it again, and then I have to watch Episode 9, and then
really
I
be
can
able
give
to.
A legit thing. But
I think most of my enjoyment for me came from the visual. I think the battle on the salt flats, and then the scene where they went to, you know, where the girl takes out the ship going to hyperspeed. You know, those two scenes from a visual standpoint were absolutely incredible.
The ship scene was incredible, yeah.
And as shitty as the casino segment was, the visual aspect of the casino was really well done. So I didn't hate the visual of it. Everything about it, like from a plot standpoint, everything was terrible. But I liked the visual of it. I thought they did a good job of it. But outside of that, the majority of my enjoyment, I guess, came from playing Where's Waldo with the references that they were making in the movie to the old movies. So Kylo, when he goes batshit and he's got his helmet in the elevator and he just fucks it all up, and you get the shot of it and it looks almost identical to Vader's helmet at the end. And then towards the end, before Luke goes on, he's like almost identical shot from the end of the first film, where the two suns are up in the background, just like in the first film. It ends the movie with Luke looking out to the two suns, and then he moves on to the fucking Force, whatever. He poofs. He pulls a Qui-Gon Jinn because he's the one that came up with all that shit. But yeah, so there was stuff like that. That stuff sprinkled throughout was what did it for me, because some of it was hidden so well, and I kind of just, you know, it kind of made me feel good about it, because I hold more, obviously, attachment to the original series than I would with the stuff that's coming out now. So that's probably where most of my enjoyment came from. Because in all honesty, the more we talk about it and more of some of the fuckery that went in, especially with the casino arc and the awkward Finn forced bullshit and the
next Asian girl.
And the random fucking character that gets to steal Admiral Akbar's fucking thunder, and some of the other stuff that I wasn't so on board with, that kind of just keeps adding up, and I'm just like, you know what?
Well, I
There
mean,
keeps,
I
like,
feel like
more
that was more
nitpicky
of a
shit.
nepotism hire to get Carrie Fisher's daughter into the movie.
And
I guess.
What about the bombs at the start of the movie where they're dropping the bombs? Like, in space, would they even drop like that?
No,
That
they
was the
wouldn't
first
drop- they
thing. I was
wouldn't
like, there
drop,
ain't no
period.
drop. There ain't
Yeah,
no
like,
drop.
They would release, and then
And they would
at
just
best,
float.
at best they would
just-
float, but because they were moving with the ship, they'd probably end up colliding and blowing their own ship up. Like there's just
when I saw them fall and when they hit space, I was like, wait a second, this doesn't feel.
But
like
yeah,
that would
I mean,
actually
I know we're watching
happen.
Star Wars, which has never made an attempt at being
Yeah.
that way. But there are lines. I know lines is a popular topic for me to talk about today, but there are things.
That's a
that-
line.
That's a line
Yeah.
where you're like,
This
okay,
didn't
I
make
know,
much sense.
I know this is
Yeah.
Star Wars, but you're talking about objects dropping dead weight in space. I mean, come on now. 5-year-olds be looking at that shit, going, "Mom, the fuck is
Isn't
that
this in
shit?
space?
is this really in space?" Like, yeah, there's only so much that you can get away with that. Oh, one other thing that I felt was kind of unnecessary was, did they really need to talk about the battering ram being shrunken down Death Star tech? Like, was that really a necessary thing? They couldn't just make it.
You gotta have a Death Star.
They needed to have the
there.
power there to be like, oh, this thing will fuck our shit up.
We went 2 hours into that movie, and I was like, are we really not going to get Death Star in this? Is it going to have we made it? And then they went and dropped that line, and I was like, God fucking son of a bitch.
Missed it by that much.
They found a way to irk it in there just last second, slipped it in, just made it happen.
Well, I mean, it kind of made sense mentally to me because, like, if you look at the First Order are pretty much the neo-Nazis of the Star Wars universe, where they're like, you know what? The Empire did some really, really fucked up and messed up shit. We need to do that harder.
Okay, hold on. We're being told we failed physics. I'm guessing because the ship that they were dropping these bombs on, I guess the idea is that it is so massive, it has enough of its own gravitational
I'm not
field
buying it.
to
I think-
pull
I
bombs.
don't buy. I
I
don't
think
buy
the
it.
fanboys are trying to figure out a way.
I don't
for
find
this
a
to make
shit.
sense.
The mass needed to do that is
And
ridiculous.
if it was, would they have dropped at the speed they did?
At free fall,
Probably not.
And would the ship that they're flying, would that be kind of pulled into the ship as well?
Which
would've-
clearly
would've
wasn't.
been-
It was already
would've
falling
been-
apart.
Yeah, like,
It still wasn't falling.
but like, I get it. The ship was huge, but yeah,
Anyway, it is what it is. Let's move on.
it is
Let's-
what it is. But yeah, no. So yeah, Star Wars happened. There you go. I think Jeff's got it definitely there to cap it. Where once we see 9, it will it's either going to make 8 much better, or it's going to make it worse. We're going to find out which way it goes, because even the director was like, look guys, I made a sequel to, episode 7. I have no idea where they're taking this in 9. And so now we get to wait with bated breath for quite some time. Was that 2020, I guess?
Yeah.
Because we're getting, is the Solo next year? Han Solo's 2019? Or
Yeah,
this
next
year? Next year?
Next
Next year. Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's
Okay.
next year.
So we don't get anything this year then. And this Christmas we don't get.
No. I
don't-
think Han Solo got a little delayed, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be in 18, and I think it got pushed to 19.
I think it's
Okay.
like early 19. Like we might get it like January, February 19.
Oh, okay. So they're not waiting for like the holiday season deal. They're just going to get it out whenever it's done.
Yeah, and then we
not
got
sure.
2020 for episode 9.
We'll be waiting a while.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to answer a couple of questions for tech
Yeah.
support.
Just a couple.
Well, we've reduced it to a couple anyway, so we don't have to worry about answering like 10. But yeah, we've got a handful to choose from. I'm gonna give this a read over here and see what we got.
I got one right here.
Beautiful. What do you got?
This one's from Mishitaki, who for some reason Patreon does not give me. Oh, he is a $10 supporter with a lifetime support of $40. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
His question was, if you could breed two animals as a hybrid together, which would they be?
Good question.
Um,
Good question.
damn.
Let's see.
Just to
Minority
scare
exist.
people, I'm gonna go with a shark elephant.
A shark, like
A sharkophant or
sharkophant?
Ella shark?
Sharkophant.
a
There you go.
sharkophant,
Or an Ella shark?
Either way, just a shark elephant.
Now, here's my
So,
question, Jeff. Is it a land-based creature or a sea-based creature?
It's a sea-based creature.
Oh, the
Not that
bottom
scared of it
feeder.
It's a big ass shark that swims, but he's so heavy that he walks on the
bottom?
bottom of the ocean. But he's terrifying.
That's what grabs your feet when you're in the ocean and you're out swimming.
What's wrong?
Yeah, and they grab its little
little trunk thing?
or its big trunk fucking nose thing, and just grabs you, just hooks your foot and brings you down, just kills you.
I'm gonna go with See, I was gonna go with an ocean-based thing too, but now you take it. But I might do it anyway. I'm gonna go with octopus and Komodo dragon. Go with the aggressive tendencies of a Komodo dragon with the intelligence and the dexterity of an octopus.
That's scary. That sounds like a real sci-fi.
Sounds like a really, really bad Japanese cartoon.
That probably exists. In all honesty, somebody's probably already gone there and done that.
I don't know. Mine for me, I saw one on Twitter the other day, which I feel like I must have now. It's called the Porgy, where they fused a porg with a corgi.
I knew you were gonna friggin' use. Somebody here was gonna use porgs.
But if I wasn't going to use a porg, I was still going to use a corgi because this animal exists and it's amazing. It's the corgi husky hybrid.
Yes, it does. Yeah, that
It's
exists.
So awesome, and it's real. I want one.
I will say, you did a shout out to episode 8 for using porgs way less than I thought they were going to.
I thought they still used them way too much.
I mean, some people would argue that
Chewie needed to eat one.
Yeah, but still, that could have been. Think of the
Eat one of
Ewoks,
their-
bro.
You can't eat their toy. That's going to be selling millions.
Think of
and
the
millions.
Ewoks.
Until you start selling them at Disneyland and Disney World as part of the lunch special.
Ooh.
You too can eat your porgies.
I
Oh,
would eat a porg too.
I'd be in for that. It
You'd
looked
make a
delicious. I'm
killing.
not gonna lie. Chewie looks like he knew what he was doing with that porg. It was golden brown.
Yeah, he like marinated that and
That was
everything. You were good to
amazing.
go.
Absolutely amazing. Let's see here.
Well, fortunately, there's not that many questions, so.
Oh, here we go. Toad of Steel asks, and y'all know who Toad of Steel is. I don't need to refresh your memory on Toad of Steel. What is a genuinely unpopular opinion you have on a particular game, either a widely loved game that you personally hated or vice versa, and what makes that game stand out for you for that reason?
Well, mine's really easy. It's Ocarina of Time. I think it's a shitty game, but it's beloved by many, many people. I think it's even rated one of the best games of all time. So, I can totally see why people feel that way. I can, but I just thought I played it as an adult, and I feel like I could play Mario 64 as an adult and still fall in love with it. But there's something about Zelda that I couldn't fall in love with as an adult. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because there's no like voice acting and there's no real direction. It's just kind of go. I mean, there is, but I don't know. I think maybe it was expectations.
I have a feeling it was a combination of
Meh.
expectations and the age of the game. Like if you didn't play Super Mario 64 when you were a kid, it's hard to be able to separate yourself from that and say, well, as an adult, I feel like I could have done that. I don't know if I didn't play Ocarina of Time as a kid or Mario 64 as a kid, if I could play it right now and have the same feeling about that game as I would have in my current situation where I did when I was a kid play those games. I can understand from like an objective review kind of way why Ocarina of Time would be considered, or lauded to be such an amazing game. But I can also see why it would not go over well for somebody like yourself going back and playing as an adult, and trying to, especially with all the hype. I mean, people, it's there's only so
It's
many
like Final
games.
Fantasy VII, right? Final Fantasy VII is the same way, where people play it now and they're like, "The fuck."
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, that's definitely easy for me. It's Ocarina of Time. I actually hate the game, and I even gave the new Zelda a chance. I went out and got a Switch, played it, hated it. I think I might have actually hated it more than the original Zelda. Because it just didn't even feel like Zelda. And it's not even like I even like Zelda. It felt like a shittier, cartoony version of Dark Souls without the difficulty. It was like, I don't know. It felt like it didn't even know what it wanted to be. But once again, it's a game that most people loved and sold extremely well.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure the next one will sell even better. So I'm just hating on Zelda tonight.
Yeah.
So my one might actually get me kicked off the podcast. I've been waiting 42 episodes to say this.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Toad of Steel. I'm not a huge fan of Pokemon. Like,
I don't
like everyone's like super into it, but I'm just like absolutely like I don't.
You did
never
nothing to
understood
my. You did nothing to my psyche or my ego or
Okay, I
anything
feel a
on
lot
that
better
one.
then.
You're
feel a lot better
fine.
then.
I mean,
No,
I
it's
don't,
just
I
like-
don't necessarily agree with you, but that does not bother me in the slightest.
Yeah, because when I was and for me personally, like I saw everyone get into it, and I played it a little bit, and I was just like, I never understood what the hype was around it, even with the cards and everything. And it was like prime time. I was in like 4th or 5th grade or something when Pokemon started becoming big, and for me, I was just like, I don't get it. And I think part of that was because by that point, my dad had already gotten us like the NES and everything earlier on, and we had already played like Final Fantasy and like Dragon Warrior and a lot of like the older JRPGs that were more complicated. So when I was playing Pokemon, I'm like, this seems kind of stupid to me. Like,
Yeah, it's for kids. I
yeah,
mean,
and it never got in.
it's
Even though I was a
kids.
kid at the time, I was target demographic. I had already played like the more older geared RPGs. So I was like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You're a
no,
little too
that's
sophisticated for the Pokemon.
It wasn't even that. It's just like to me, I was like the game wasn't that good to me. So I was like, okay.
I think
I
that's
actually
fair.
like the games. I actually
Yeah.
like the games, and I actually like Pokemon a lot. So I get it. I get why you didn't like it because.
Yeah.
But I'm an adult now. I think Pokemon's for children. I think it's childish. Personally, I just think it's dumb. I think it. I'm so like if somebody like offered to pay me to play Pokemon, I'd be like, no, I'm good, thanks. I really just think it's super childish now.
My only problem with Pokemon is just that it's gone on so long that the types of Pokemon they now have are getting a little silly. Like we're getting into like
A key,
keys
like
and
a phone Pokemon,
and like an actual bundle of garbage and
Yeah.
like
Garbage Mon.
there's that stuff is what's like I'm just looking at it going, really, just
Yeah.
come on now. I know you're trying to keep up, but do we really need that many new Pokemon if the best Pokemon you're going to give me is the shit that I throw on my curb every Thursday? Is that really like that's what you're going to give me? So yeah, it's and it bothered me a bit too that from a game like from a critic perspective that we went as long as we did with the Pokemon games getting no real mechanical upgrades. Like
For a
in terms
long
of
time.
like just the game was identical forever and very few people ever called Pokemon out on that shit. We call Call of Duty out on that shit, but Pokemon it was like untouchable despite the fact that the game was identical and they re-released their old games and they just pumped that shit nonstop. It's the same game.
Silver, Omega Silver.
I mean,
Yeah.
how cool
Ultra
would it have been, though?
Silver.
I feel like they just dropped the ball. They're not growing with their demographic, and it's like, imagine how cool Pokemon Go could have been, even with all the dumb Pokemon names and the dumb Pokemon. But how cool would it have been if that when you're down at the waterfront, because there was a Pokemon Go craze. I mean, that shit was fucking like it took over the planet, and it lasted a lot longer than I thought it was gonna. Even still, there's people today that are still fucking around Pokemon Go.
Mm-hmm.
How cool would it have been to go down to the waterfront and just challenge people to duels and just flat out battle them? Your Pokemon versus their Pokemon.
Until later.
That would have been amazing. Like that actually would have got me into the Pokemon Go. But
you have
instead,
the competitive
I'm
aspect
walking around
then.
like a fucking moron, getting in everybody's way, not looking at where I'm going, collecting the same Pokemon over again, and that's the show. It was a collecting game, and I get it. That's cool. But when can we fight these damn things? When can I, evolve them and fight them and have them out of service for like 24 hours or a week after they got defeated? When is there some stakes involved? Like, when can we get competitive? And that's what was missing. It's just too casual. It's just too kiddie.
They're still making a fortune off that game, though, let me tell you.
Oh, hell yeah.
Tons of money off of that game. For me, much more recent title, Nier Automata.
We knew that one was coming.
I'll never understand it. I will never get why anyone could think that is I mean, I can get why somebody would say it's a good video game. I'm not going to hate you for it. But to say that it's and this is what a lot of people say, one of the greatest video games ever made, to stack it up against so much other stuff, blows my mind beyond belief. We're talking about a video game that the best narrative delivery it had was for the first two endings, have you replay the fucking same game for 20 hours, with the only difference being you do some weird hacking top-down minigame shit. And then everything else plays out exactly the fucking same. And then it's like almost like with the World of Warcraft argument where it became, oh, well, you didn't get to this ending. And then somebody will get to that ending and be like, you know what, I'm still not feeling it. And then they say, yeah, but you haven't gotten to this ending. It really starts to make sense at this ending. And then they just kept moving the peg and moving the marker and moving the marker to the point where I said, fuck this game. This is stupid. If I don't like it now, and the developer is going to put where everything really makes sense, weigh the shit out here, then
It's just padding at my point.
In my opinion, that makes it kind of shitty narrative delivery. Like, I don't care how good it is, if I have to slog through the same wasteland over and over again, then why in the shit would I do it? Now, coincidentally, a couple of game journalists that I have a great amount of respect for, like Jeff Gersman, came out and said that they had similar experiences to me where they went months. They played it, they were like, fuck this game. Then they had months and months with nothing. And then they eventually went back to it to say, okay, let's just give it another go. And they managed to get themselves through it. And then they found some form of respect for the game. I can't get it. I feel like the developer is, and it's in his other games too, he's being artsy-fartsy for the sake of being artsy-fartsy.
Yeah, that's it. That's the worst. That's some pretentious shit, and it's annoying.
And people talked about it like it was a second coming. You're talking about where the main arc was existentialism using robots. Can somebody please tell me how nobody has figured out yet that exact arc has been done a billion fucking times before and done better than Nier Automata? Has anyone seen Ex Machina? That's better than Nier Automata, and does it more concisely, and I don't have to watch the movie 10 fucking times from slightly different perspectives to get that he wants to talk about the fact that the parallels in humanity with artificial intelligence and how that might be a gray area.
All right, Adam. All right.
Sorry.
I've heard you in 4 different podcasts about this game. I feel like I actually know the story so well now that I never ever will turn the game. Thank God.
Sorry.
Sounds like pile ass.
I'm sorry.
Sounds like I'd hate it too.
But there's a waifu in it, and you can see her like basically G-string ass. So I mean, it ain't all that bad. Rule 34 gives it something to work with. You get a bunch of people out there, waifu pillows, a 2B, fucking spanking it. You gotta have something. You gotta have something. So that's my game. All right. Do we want to do one more quick one? Just a little tight and fast one.
Call it there.
Yeah. I'm just
think so.
tossing it out. Yeah, there's nothing
I
else
think
there
so.
that's
We're at
really.
You know what? We'll do one more since we missed last week. Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
we missed a
One
whole
more,
week.
and
We
then I
might as well
gotta
give it. Yeah. Okay. I chose that one, so I think
All right.
where are we at?
What am I? Is it my turn?
Yeah, I think it's your turn.
Oh man, I closed down the thing too because
I got one if you want to do it. It's
Go
a
ahead.
relatively quick
Go
one.
ahead.
This
Yeah,
one's
you-
from our boy Granddad's Belt. Or Granddad's Belt, I should say. What is your favorite meme from last year, or just one in general you like? My favorite right now is Ugandan Knuckles.
Wait, what was the question again? What was it?
What is your favorite meme from last year, or
Oh.
just one in general you like?
Oh, okay. You're dangerous saying Ugandan Knuckles because there's a whole bunch of like social justice warriors cracking down on the Ugandan Knuckles right now
I
because
feel like it's a good meme.
I think it's friggin' I think it's pretty funny myself.
It's Uganda coming out on the world stage in a way, shape, or form. Even the guy who created it loves it. Like the fact that people are picking it up.
Yeah. Do you know the way?
I will show you the way.
That whole
I
video
like-
game is a meme.
I like the one. Probably the one that makes me laugh every time I see it is the one where with the fucking the
Salt Bay?
yeah. It
Salt
was like,
Salt Bay? I love Salt Bay.
you know,
He was
it's-
fire.
Every time I see it, it's hard not to laugh because it's so ridiculous and it's funny.
You can't hate though. The food looks delicious.
It does look delicious.
Absolutely delicious. I want to
Probably-
eat Salt Bay food.
It's probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite.
That
of
was
last year.
definitely high up on my list from last year for sure. I'm gonna say one that nobody would think of because it's really old, but it kills me. I want to see if I can find it. It's an older one, and the reason why I remember it is
It's
because
an older meme, but it checks out.
it's an older meme, but it checks out. Brian was over here when playing games, and he brought this up. He was on Imager or something, and he brought this up the other day, and he was like, "Have you ever seen this?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And he was saying, "I want to get it framed to put on my wall because it makes me cry every time I see it with laughter." And it's true. It's an image that you use when there's something that's just so awkward shows up. I'll post it in chat for everyone to see this. It's so awkward, and then this is the
Is
the
it the
image
guy
you
who's
use.
just like holding his finger up and he's just like, I don't know? Or-
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so good.
It's the jazz music stops. If
That's
you
like
just-
a classic-y art one, too.
Oh yeah, like if you just it's from an old painting, so like and it's probably from like New Orleans or some shit. If you search up jazz music stops, it'll be right there. Oh, you can actually see the real painting. That's amazing. Here, let me see if I'll put this in chat too. But that picture fucking kills. If it's used at the right time, you don't see it coming because it doesn't get used all that frequently because everyone else is using all the overused memes, and then somebody will just like low key drop that image in, and it fucking wrecks me. Just dead.
It is definitely that
Absolutely
face of,
dead.
like what the fuck?
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
like, it's painful.
Jazz
It's
music
like there's so
stops.
much emotion going on between those eyes and mouth. There's just enough wrinkles in the face too. It's really
And you can just picture he just like stops his music entirely. He's like,
what the fuck.
and there's another one that goes with it. That's where jazz music starts or whatever. So there's like an opposite. So like when everything goes back to normal, it's just like, oh, okay. And it just, and it reminds you of like all the scenes that are in movies where you'll be in a bar where there's like music and then somebody falls and then everything just kind of like record scratch and everything stops. Like that's the image I have in my mind. This guy like standing over on the side playing music and then just the music stops. Yeah, there you go.
Funny. It's funny.
Yeah, that's
Mine's
a good
not
one.
nearly as good as that one, but this one always gets me. It's the Sailor Moon one where Tuxedo Mask is just like, my job here is done.
Oh, even though he does nothing.
Yeah, I linked it in chat. It's just like, you didn't do anything. He's just like already going with the cape.
Yep. My job here is done. That was Tuxedo Mask in every episode.
And I just love it when people will do something stupid, or especially when people start virtue signaling on Twitter or whatever. I'll just drop the first frame of that and
Yeah.
walk away.
My job
Forgot
here
that
is
guy even
done.
Existed. I gotta watch Sailor Moon, man. That's a good show.
Sailor Moon was fire.
Yeah, it's
They did a
really,
reboot
really
of it,
good
didn't
show.
they? Or like a redo
Yeah.
for it?
Yeah, it was like a couple years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Fire. But yeah, tuxedo mask. That was always, even as a kid, I was like, the fuck are you even doing? Everything is already done. And then here comes tuxedo mask. And like the most effort he puts in, he'll throw a rose at the ground. It's like, ching! And then everyone just looks up and he's like, peace. He's just fucking like, heads out. My job here is done. So that's pretty good. I like it.
All right. Well,
I like
there
it.
you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this show. What a roller coaster of emotions today. Yeah, lots of stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed the madness. Nothing is a better idea than getting me running on literally 45 minutes of sleep and then asking me to talk about shit that pisses me off, because then I don't make any sense. So hopefully that was a good time for you and everyone else involved.
Though, bro.
Look, at least let me think that I make sense half the time. 60% of the time, it works every time.
Oh,
I'm gonna give you 40%.
I started going to a chiropractor. Today is my second day.
Why didn't you go through my referral for the one that I go to? Because she's dope.
Oh, I don't know. I got some guy down on Offspring Garden, but he's really good, man. Super knowledgeable. But I'm already feeling so much better after just 2 days. But
oh yeah,
the first time he started cracking me, oh my God. It was painful, but it wasn't. It was like a really weird. I have some fucked up shit with my neck. And like when he grabs that, it feels like he could put me into submission. Puts a bit of pressure, and I'm like, go. I'm like, oh God. And he's like, yeah, just like, oh my God. Jesus Christ.
That's
I got
true.
this posture corrector thing I've been using at work.
Panic, don't lie. That's a sex swing. Get that shit out of here.
No, it's actually a posture corrector. It works surprisingly well, but doing the back thing.
Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Just, use safe tools, safe words.
That's right.
Safe tools. But yeah,
Works
chiropractor.
surprisingly well.
Chiropractor. I love my chiropractor. I haven't been there in forever because it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap,
but it's worth.
When I get out and I have and it's nagging like 4 or 5 days and I can't get it with a foam roller and I can't get it like normally, I go in, she's like, oh yeah, here, and they're like, ah,
yep.
And then I feel amazing instantaneously.
Yeah, like even my posture and everything, I'm like,
oh, it gets better.
Fuck, I didn't even know I could stand.
I'm like 2 inches taller.
Like what the fuck? I feel like
absolutely.
A human.
It's
like,
crazy.
I'm walking to the chiropractor with like just. I don't know. It's just
new lease on life.
You're starting to float
dude.
like Richard Simmons and shit. You're just like fucking walking so smooth.
Like my shoulders doing shit they've never done before. I'm just like, just everywhere I go, I just want to just move around and shit. It's fucked up. So I'm feeling it.
What do you mean it's fucked up?
Well, now that we got all the way, to the end, and both of us talked about how we like chiropractors, YouTube comments are going to be a bunch of like, that's pseudoscience fuckboy shit. Now we're going to have to listen to that.
Or
whatever.
my sex.
At least I don't have to take pills and shit and
that's true.
Whatever. And hey, if it is pseudoscience, then hey, it's working.
It's working.
I feel great.
Yeah, you know what? As much as I'd love to just pop Percocet for the rest of my life, I'd rather just.
I'd rather not. I'd rather not. So.
But it's that dope mumble rap though. Everyone's got to get on that Molly and Percocet.
Let's get out of here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
take us home.
Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to take us home with the Patreon producers: Jetrix, Postal Panda, Fry C, Derek P, Naily, Adam B, Jamaican J, Ice Wolfie Jorbach, Lars M, Toto Steel, Matthew M, and Xavier A. All of you legends, gentlemen, scholars. Incredible. Keeping us going, keeping the dream alive. Yeah, I mean, for real. Just keeping the dream alive. Every time I get a paycheck from this podcast, it is one more month I don't have to go work at some random fucking insurance company. So thank you for keeping the dream alive. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening. And until we do see you, do us a favor. And I don't know where I was going with that. I got to an end and then I doubled back again. We'll see you next week, guys.